OTB Sports Radio.
With BruceBetting.com, giving you more this soccer season. Enjoy up to 35% cash boost on your winning sports ACCA.
Dundalk lost 1-0 to Slovan Bratislava in the first leg of the Europa League third qualifying round tie in Slovakia last night. David Holman scored the winner 5 minutes from time. The return leg is at Tallaght Stadium next Tuesday. Lily White's boss, Vinnie Perth, spoke to Dundalk TV after the game and he was encouraged despite the result.
It's the first time in a long time we've had that sort of midfield cohesion, which helped us create chances, but we've made it difficult for ourselves by not taking those chances. But I believe in this group and I believe there's a big night for them, and hopefully it's next Tuesday.
In the third qualifying round for the Champions League, Celtic drew 1-1 away to Romanian side Cluj. James Forrest grabbed that away goal for the Hoops. It's transfer deadline day in the Premier League with the window closing at 5 o'clock. Kieran Tierney has left Celtic for Arsenal in a £25 million deal. Arsenal could be in line to snap up Chelsea's David Luiz, while North London rivals Tottenham are set to finalise deals for Giovanni Lo Celso of Real Betis and Fulham's Ryan Sessegnon. Elsewhere, striker Romelu Lukaku is set to complete his move from Manchester United to Inter Milan for £77 million. Champions Manchester City have snapped up defender João Cancelo from Juventus, while Danilo moves in the opposite direction. And Republic of Ireland international James McCarthy has joined Crystal Palace from Everton for £8.5 million. National team skipper meanwhile Seamus Coleman now has competition at Everton with the arrival of Djibril Sidibe on loan from Monaco. Shane Lowry plays his first tournament as Open champion today. He tees off at the Northern Trust event on the US PGA Tour in New Jersey, a field which also includes Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods. And the Irish team to play Italy in the first of the World Cup warm-up games will be named later today. Well, it's a ladies' day at the Dublin Horse Show at the RDS, and there's horse racing action later from Leopardstown. That gets underway at 5:15. There's also action from Sligo underway from 5:35. For OTB Sports Radio, I'm Tom Malone.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Very good morning to you. Welcome along to a specially extended day. It's transfer deadline day. It's 7 a.m. Normally we're here at 7:30 and we take you through to 9:30. But today we're here from 7 all the way until 10. And then after us there's a show. And after that 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 there's a show. And then there's the normal radio show. And then after that there's a show. There are shows all the way until midnight tonight. It's a little bit crazy and we're pretty happy about it. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm excited. I'm buzzing actually. Nothing to do with this OTB 17 crap. It's all to do with Arsenal this morning.
Yeah, why? What have they done? They've awoken you from a decades-long slumber.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than not caring about a sports team.
Tell me, I'm a Villa fan. like a long period of time there where I was like, oh my God. But now they're back too. So.
You can relate to this.
A lot.
You can relate to this feeling that...
Yeah.
Arsenal are going to sign David Luiz. Arsenal have signed, or have got close to signing Kieran Tierney overnight. I'm back on the bandwagon. This thing is happening once again. I don't care what anybody says about David Luiz and his supposed concentration levels or the mistakes that he makes, because if anything, Ger, it's just going to be a hell of a lot of fun this season if this move is completed.
Are you a David Luiz believer? Pardon me. You are in terms of like his, or are you one of those doubters who, it's like PlayStation football?
No, I'm a David Luiz believer. I think he's an outrageously talented footballer. But, I'm not here to say that. I don't think Arsenal could have signed anybody this season within their budget to actually say that they could contend for the Premier League title. But what they've done is they've delivered a player that will bring smiles to all of our faces.
What if Wenger had signed David Luiz at the peak of David Luiz's powers? Would that have been like the one missing Jenga piece that might have transformed that team into something better? It's like, you need a centre back, you need a centre back and a goalkeeper, you need a centre back and a goalkeeper, you need a centre back and a... David Luiz, perfect.
Potentially, yeah. Like the way Arsenal played football under Wenger, he certainly would have been a Jenga piece that would have added a lot to the team, you'd imagine. But even now, I think, even at his age, I think he adds quite a lot to this team. I'm happy. It's been a good start to deadline day.
Before we get into that, because you're going to show us your favourite, I'm not going to say the name of what you're calling your team. You can do that. That's fine, because I don't use that word. Conor Hourihane, Harry Arthur, Keith Andrews, Kieran Donaghy, Jack Conan, and way more coming your way between now and 10 o'clock this morning. But more importantly, we want to hear your transfer deadline day stories. And the big question for us is, who's actually winning this transfer window? Because we all know the most important thing that happens before Manchester City win the league is who actually wins the transfer window. That's like one of those things that you can kind of lean into and go, well, I think actually my club have done pretty well. And actually Villa have had an amazing transfer window, a bit below the radar, signed 12 players. Obviously half their team disappeared because most of their best players, apart from the two good ones, were on loan last year. So they needed an entirely new squad, and they've done very well. But, I'm just going to not pump them up, no hype.
There's nothing under the radar about spending £120 million.
There is when you do it. You don't do it on like one big splashy player and then a load of freebies, because like it's quite under the radar comparatively.
Yeah, okay. I take your point.
You know, there's no Dybala. There's no like they didn't suddenly hijack Ryan Sessegnon and go, we're big boys now. It's like no, we signed a bunch of 10 to 12, 15 million pound players, and hopefully 4 of them are good, who play 36 games in the Premier League, and we establish ourselves as the 16th best team in English football.
They didn't even do that Blackburn Rovers move of linking themselves to somebody massive. They didn't say Ronaldinho's joining Aston Villa or whoever the 2019 version of that transfer rumour would have been. No,
they didn't, which suggests that the club's being well run.
Yeah. Screw running the club well. All we want is like a Blackburn Rovers-esque transfer rumour.
We just want finally to think, okay, the manager's really good, plays a really interesting brand of football. They've got a young superstar who's ready to set the entire thing alight, and they've bought relatively well. Anyway, look, I'm not going to bore you with Aston Villa stories. You can bore us with this, with your Arsenal love. You're unbelievably excited about this. Properly excited about it.
Yeah, I am unbelievably excited about it, but I am going to temper expectations now because, let's face it, up until Unai Emery came in, and really, let's face it, at the end of Unai Emery's season, we saw the great hallmarks of peak Arsenal banter era.
Did we though? Did we?
The way they managed to completely crumble at the end of last season.
Explain banter era Arsenal.
Basically, terrible team. The team, like a collection of footballers that are obviously good at football. They have a touch. They can pass the ball, but
actually crap.
They just tend to have the mental concentration of 3-year-olds generally.
A psychological gap.
A psychological gap. But what you cannot say about Arsenal banter era is that it wasn't a lot of fun. I had to look back, and perhaps David Luiz eventually gets into this team, but I had to look at the starting 11 if we were to pick a dream team of Arsenal players of this description over the past decade or so, because it really only lasted for the past decade. And I put together this lineup quickly this morning. I'm not sure if David Luiz gets into this, but you got to go with Wojciech Szczesny in goals anyway. This is quite the team. At right back we've got Emmanuel Bouye. At centre half then you've got Sebastian Scolacci alongside Silvestre, and Kieran Gibbs at left back. Now Kieran Gibbs might be the most...
what about Silvestre, was a proper footballer?
For Manchester United.
I mean, did he not have a couple of good seasons at the start for Arsenal?
No.
Did he not?
No.
Did he not?
No.
Sure?
Yeah. Well, Silvestre was also kind of like a hilarious signing. It was such a telegraphed end to a career that Arsenal managed to get on board with. But I put Kieran Gibbs in there. Like the rest of them, I think it's so far is pretty self-explanatory. Although Manuel Almunia could have beaten Szczesny to the goalkeeper shirt, I went for Kieran Gibbs just because he embodied the Arsenal banter era when he got sent off for a handball that was going wide, and it wasn't even him that handled the ball.
Okay.
The Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain handball against Chelsea that time. In midfield, we've got Emmanuel Frimpong, because Emmanuel Frimpong, alongside Kim Callistrom, who Arsenal signed when he had a broken back. That's a good deadline day callback there. Kim Callistrom, Gervinho, and Andrei Arshavin on the wings. It just has to be, quite frankly.
I'd forgotten about Gervinho.
Behind a front line of Nicholas Bentner and Marouane Chamakh. That right there is better than anything Leonardo da Vinci ever painted. It is a picture of beauty, and I love that team so much. Can David Luiz break into it? Well, he can only do it on the pitch. Andre Santos is what has been said into my ear, but Kieran Gibbs, I think, beats Santos at the left-back position.
I remember when Marouane Chamakh was signed, Chamakh had scored more headed goals in... Did he come from Liga?
Yeah.
Probably. He'd scored more headed goals in Liga in the previous season than anybody else, and it was like, this is it now, finally. It's like Fernie Jeffers. Finally, the fox in the box. This is exactly all Arsenal needed. They get loads of crosses, but they've had nobody to header it. 0 headed goals from Marouane Chamakh. I mean, maybe even 0 goals from Chamakh. Was there any league goals for Chamakh in the first season?
He might have scored a couple here and there. He also had the worst fringe in the history of football.
I mean, it was actually a comb over, and before the days where footballers felt like it was legitimate for them just to arrive back from a weekend away with a new weave. He should have just shaved his head and gone this is who I am.
Yeah, he should have.
And I'm a hard man, and my bald head is going to score loads of headed goals.
Yeah, I wanted to put Oleg Luzhny in there as well, but he goes back a little bit too far. And Park Chu-young was another one that would have been good, and Rio Miyachi as well. There were some of the names that were floating through my head when I saw David Luiz linked with Arsenal, but I've got hope for David Luiz because I think he's a world-class player.
He came from Bordeaux to Arsenal in 2010, and actually scored 8 goals in 40 appearances. That's 8 goals more than I thought he scored in 40 appearances.
That is the most efficient player in that Arsenal 11 we just showed, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so Isle Cody wants to know, are you actually glowing? No Yerisms with the Arsenal signings. It's true, this is like...
Yera Arsenal. You really just can't.
It's true, yeah. That's a fair point.
It's impossible.
But you're legitimately excited about David Luiz. It's not like a post-ironic, I think, like, I'm going to go and watch goals now, and they might be scored at my end too.
No, that 11 is post-irony, obviously, and I don't actually think Luiz will make it. I am genuinely excited about David Luiz. I'm sure there are people who aren't so excited and think this is a poor signing, but I am a David Luiz believer, as we've already established. But also overnight, Celtic and their acceptance of the £25 million offer for Kieran Tierney is significant news as well. That is a brilliant piece of business, and it seems that Arsenal are going to conclude things this evening now. I think that is going to be it. Luiz and Tierney in the door, and that'll be that. It's just going out the door now because Everton are still in the mix for Wilfried Zaha, and you made a very good point off air that perhaps the Alex Iwobi thing is just a sideshow, but we'll see. I think that if Arsenal managed to get 40 million quid for Alex Iwobi...
Explain the Iwobi thing.
So Everton made a bid in the mid 30 millions for Alex Iwobi last night. That was rejected. Arsenal won £42 million for Alex Iwobi, which I think if they get, they should sell.
But Alex Iwobi good?
He scored 8 goals last season, I think. He had a couple of performances here and there that were like, okay, this guy is going to reach his potential, or whatever that potential might have been. But I just can't see it now at this point for him to become an absolute superstar, for him to even become a regular starter in a top 4 team. So what's the point of having him around if he's not going to become that player? If, for example, Everton panic on deadline day and decide to stump up £40 million, I think you bang that hammer down and sell him immediately.
We will, of course, be keeping a very close eye on all the Irish moves. Transfer market this morning are reporting that the James McCarthy to Crystal Palace deal is done. €3.3 million is the fee there, saying that's various different people reporting that it's anything up to 9 million eventually, depending on certain conditions. You presume if he was to play every game for the next couple of seasons, that Palace will throw a little bit of extra cash towards Everton. I think it's a good bit of business for Palace. I think it's a good bit of business for James McCarthy. The other thing that's important from an Irish perspective with Everton is Djibril Sidibe has signed for Everton on loan from Monaco as their right back and as competition for our captain. So I'm not entirely sure that that's great news when it comes to what's going to happen there, unless, as we were saying yesterday, there's a possibility that they both play half the season, and actually it's a really good thing in that it actually helps to extend the career by playing half the games this year and half the games next year and half the games the year after, but playing to a very high standard in every game.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So if we're talking about half the games this season, and then Matt Doherty is playing all the games this season, and Wolves are in and around Everton's position once again this season, then Seamus Coleman's Ireland position has to be in doubt, doesn't it?
I don't know. I think if you're managing minutes, if you're like looking at this like an NBA star, right, and that you want Seamus Coleman to be really good at the end of the season because Everton feel like they're going to play 60 odd games and go deep in multiple cup competitions, then he plays 30 games, happy days, you know? Like, I don't know if he plays really well in those games. Do you know what I mean? So this is the way Spurs have had their 4 full-backs, and that now I don't know what's going to happen this year, obviously, because there's still talk of Danny Rose maybe gone, Trippier's gone, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not they have 2 full-backs who play every game. But certainly, so far, there's been a sense that if, in the way Everton want to play, that their right back and left back will run, and that you're not going to be able to do that for 60 games. So you get somebody for 30 games, somebody else for 30 games, and it doesn't matter who plays, that they're both of equal standards.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, also what we have to remember here is that Djibril Sidibe has never reached the height in his career that Seamus Coleman has reached. If you take them both at the peak of their form, Sidibe has been absolutely outstanding in a brilliant Monaco team. But I would say that Seamus Coleman at his peak was better than that. Now, we can accept that Seamus Coleman's peak is gone, but he has shown glimpses last season of working hard, of getting himself back to full fitness, of getting himself back to something resembling a consistent top-class Premier League right-back. If he manages to do that again this season, then Sidibe is not walking into this team. Coleman is the person who knows the club, he's the person who knows the league, he's the person who knows most opposition left-wingers in the league. He's got a lot of advantages over Sidibe as well. What I'm saying is that if Coleman surrenders that jersey to Sidibe, then he's in trouble from an Irish perspective. But I'm not saying that is going to happen just yet.
There's certainly a different conversation to be had there. The other thing that happened, Scott Hogan joined Stoke City from Aston Villa on loan. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be a huge thing, but he's got to get game time, he's got to get goals, and he's got to prove himself as the striker who Villa desperately wanted to sign for 12 or 15 million or whatever it was that they ended up spending on him. Cancelao joined Manchester City overnight as well for a fee of 65 million from Juve, and Danilo went the opposite direction.
Yeah, so Cancelo's a good move for them for sure. Danilo didn't really hit the heights I thought he was going to be. An excellent signing for City at the time, but it seemed that, he's done 2 seasons now at Manchester City. Just didn't really happen for him. Like, we talk about this idea, and I know we're putting up a poll in a little while as well about who actually won the transfer window, and I think really it's Tottenham versus Arsenal at this point, isn't it? I mean, the Lo Celso signing for Spurs, when that gets done, that's a brilliant piece of work by Maurizio Pochettino, because we've been speaking quite a lot about central midfield for Tottenham Hotspur. Who is that midfielder that they should be signing alongside in Ndombele, somebody who is a bit more advanced? And Lo Celso can play those positions a little bit in front of him. The thing is he a little bit similar to Ndombele? Is he going to provide as much on the opposite end of the pitch as, say, something like Philippe Coutinho or Paulo Dybala would provide? Well, that question remains to be answered, but he's been brilliant for Betis, he was brilliant for Paris Saint-Germain. I think it's just a brilliant piece of work, and obviously Daniel Levy listened when Maurizio Pochettino said to him the other day that perhaps my managerial my role should be changed to coach rather than manager, and he's put his hand in his wallet once again. So a brilliant window, I think, from Spurs. So
they've added Ryan Sessegnon left back. They've paid 25 million quid for him. They have added Ndombele at midfield, and they've added Lo Celso, and it'll be interesting to see how long it takes for all those players to bed in. Sessegnon, you would assume, goes pretty much straight into the team. Ndombele, the deal was done early enough that they should know exactly what they're getting there, and they should be able to play him maybe against Villa this weekend, and then they've just got some depth now all of a sudden.
Yeah, and that's something that they haven't had for quite some time. Something that we've always criticised Spurs for having. Like, is Ericsson going to get done today? Is that it going out the door? Like, it probably not.
It doesn't have to get done, right?
No, he's going to go to Europe.
Yeah. So unless you sell him to Man United, like, do you want to sell him to Man United? Maybe you do. Maybe you think he's on the way down. Maybe you think you've got the best out of him, and that he's not actually going to be a dominant player in the Premier League, and you think, yeah, okay, you guys can spend 50 million on him and ramp up your wage bill and add him to your mix, and actually it doesn't significantly weaken us.
Yeah, it does appear that the United thing has broken down already, that they have spoken to Christian Eriksen himself, and
yeah, but that can always be like 2 quick phone calls this afternoon where, like, Real Madrid go, we have no interest and no money in you because we're chasing Neymar, and so look, Christian, thanks very much. And suddenly it's like, oh, maybe, I really like what Man United are doing now. Ole really sold me the dream.
I think if Spurs think that Christian Eriksen is on the way down, it's not going to be as rapid a decline where selling to your rivals is going to not be an issue. I think selling to Manchester United is a big issue from Spurs. They're not going to do this thing unless Manchester United come up with the mother of all offers, really. And Daniel Levy's like, that money can go towards a good transfer kitty in January, and we already have an identifiable target, or perhaps something towards paying a bit of wages, who knows. I just don't think selling to Manchester United is a smart move whatsoever. I think Christian Eriksen would offer a lot to Manchester United right now, perhaps only for 1 season, but this next season is vital from Spurs' development as well. I mean, that's a top 4 spot that Manchester United will be gunning for as well. So I don't know, like, United, it's going to be an interesting couple of hours for them as well. Lukaku, his move seems to be pretty much done, and he's in Milan. That's definitely going to happen. And you do wonder, like what I find, sorry to bring this on a different tangent, but what I find very curious now is that the one thing we said about Solskjaer when he came in was that he kept the dressing room happy. He managed to put his arm around the stars, the world-class players, and made them happy. And maybe that's not the managerial style for everybody, but here he is and he's fallen out with somebody. Like, I'd love to know the inside story of what actually happened between Lukaku and Solskjaer.
Well, I think that that's not necessarily a bad thing, though, right? Because I was listening to somebody talking about a different situation about you don't pick a fight when you're a new coach or manager, but you make. I was Pat Nevin last night. He was talking about David Luiz. He was like, from Lampard, they wouldn't have picked that fight with David Luiz, but as soon as it happens, you've got to win it. And as soon as it appeared like Lukaku wasn't going to be part of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's thinking, he needed to make sure that he was gone. And getting rid of him today, I think, is actually quite a statement. Lukaku wasn't going to be the striker of the future for Manchester United. He is 4th to 6th, 4th to 8th in any league level of striker. He'll score a lot of goals, but everything has to be designed around making sure that he has those chances, 3 of which out of every 9 he's going to score, 7 he's going to score. And if that's what Manchester United's future is, it's not good enough. So presumably Solskjaer came in and was like, great, I'm stuck with this guy, I'm going to use him as much as I can, and then in the summer we're going to get rid of him. And that's what they've done. And I think that's actually good management, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But I don't know, just kind of... I'm not criticising Solskjaer here. I'm saying that I'd be interested to see how his demeanour has changed, how he goes from what I presume to be an arm around the shoulder with Romelu Lukaku and get his confidence back up because it got torn asunder by Jose Mourinho and by the United fans during Jose's reign. That how does Solskjaer then change? How does that actually diminish in terms of their relationship?
Wow, 73 million sterling is the fee for Romelu Lukaku. It's being reported. So Inter Milan have agreed a deal for Romelu Lukaku. 73 million sterling is the fee. So that's a good bit of business. This is BBC reporting this, which could rise to 80 million euros, 74 million. In July, they rejected Inter's 54 million bid, and now it has gone to 73 million. So that's a good bit of business for Manchester United. Gives them an injection of cash this afternoon. Look, it's not actually that good. I was wondering exactly what the fee was. They paid 75 million to Everton 2 years ago. So not losing a significant amount of money on Romelu Lukaku and probably largely breaking even over the 2 seasons. That's not bad. I suppose that's okay, because it definitely felt like it was an overpay at the time. They were paying a Manchester United tax for it, and they've managed to get that back. So Brian Dillon on YouTube says, all right lads, starting a 12-hour shift, so I'm with you all the way until 7 o'clock because I have a life. I presume he means because I have no life. Also, I'm a Bolton fan, so I have nothing to contribute today whatsoever. Things don't seem to be that good for Bolton right now. Back in the day when Bolton were actually one of the most exciting teams to be following on transfer deadline day, because you never knew when Yuri Djorkaeff was about to get off the plane, or whoever else in that amazing litany of free transfers that they managed to. JJ Okocha, they were happy days. So I'm sorry for your trouble as a Bolton fan. I understand sometimes that these things happen. Football is cyclical, or goes in a circle, as Eoin invented yesterday. Good man, Eoin.
What was that about again?
They say football is... I don't know. They say football is goes in circles.
Do you not think it does?
And Chris Sutton goes, who says that? And you're like, oh, nobody. I just made it up right now.
To be fair, it's something that people say that. Do you not think it goes in cycles? Everything goes in cycles.
Cycles, yeah.
Like Scott Carson goes in cycles. He's going to Manchester City today.
That's one of my favourite stories. We'll talk about that in a little while. But so a lot of people who didn't see the interview, who just listened to the radio version of the interview that you did with Chris Sutton, thought that there was genuine tension as opposed to a flirting, budding romance between you, which was actually very evident from the look of love that Chris Sutton had in his eyes for you most of the way through. He was giving you compliments. He was laughing at your patter. He was making you feel uncomfortable because that was in his gift. It was compelling watching. But people who listened to it just thought, geez, Sutton's a bit of a prick, isn't he? He's being really mean to our Eoin there, was the sense that they got.
I think that's putting it very kindly to me, but thank you for only picking that one tweet. Anyway, what's your point?
Actually, he loved you.
Oh, right. I'm not sure about that.
Oh, totally.
He did say at the end, I did say at the end we'd have to get him back on again, and he said, okay. Or maybe he's just doing that to be polite because...
See, when he was saying that we're text buddies, him and Sean Dyche, that was your bit, that like you should now be text buddies with him. That was like a clear opening for you to get his number.
Do we not have Chris Sutton's number?
It's been a while since, I guess. Yeah, but you need it. You need to go, hey, it's me, and
I'm not much of a texter. You'll be sad to know that I only text people when I need something from them.
I mean, he'd be happy.
Don't waste my time with conversations.
A transactional. Well, shout out from Brisbane, lads, says Declan Coleman. Keep up the good work. What time of the day is it in Brisbane? Is it 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening? 4:30. 4:30 in the afternoon. Yeah. So, good man, Declan. I presume it's decent enough weather in in August, the 8th of August. Here we are, transfer deadline day. Here's what's coming up over the next 2.5 hours for you on OTBAM this morning. Going to bring in the sports pages 4 minutes ago. Jack Conan's coming your way at 7:40. It's the first of the round of interviews that the Ireland players get to do before the squad is officially named. That game against Italy this weekend is suddenly looming large, very under the radar, but it's the last opportunity for some players to stake their case before the squad gets whittled down again. I'm going to talk Spurs with John Duggan around about 8:05. He's making the case that Spurs are currently winning the transfer window. Eoin is making the case that Arsenal are winning the transfer window. We'd like to hear from you, especially I want to hear from the Liverpool fans, just how disappointed they are that there's been nothing done in this window to just layer on the level of success that they had last season, because stop in this world and you actually end up going backwards. Conor Hourihane coming your way at 8:05. The shot clock with Kieran Donaghy coming your way at 8:15. Kerry versus Tyrone. I'm going to preview that properly this morning as well in detail. Interesting column from Sean Kavanagh in the papers, which we'll get into in a minute. Michael Rice, 8:45. Sports News coming your way at 9 o'clock. Keith Andrews, 9:10. Harry Arter, a loan movie in the transfer window here. Good move for him to Fulham, which will definitely help with his football. And then we're going all the way until 10 o'clock this morning, updating you as the news breaks this morning about the transfers. We've got a done deal coming your way already from the Inter Milan situation with regards to Romelu Lukaku. All right, time for the papers.
Join Off the Ball in Abu Dhabi this November 17th to 23rd for the inaugural Off the Ball Open. With flights from Dublin, 5 nights in a 4-star hotel, golf on 2 championship courses, gala awards dinner, Peter Lorry golf clinic, and a live Off the Ball roadshow. You can also hang out with some special guests, including Kevin Kilban and Kieran Donaghy. The inaugural Off the Ball Open. Book now at CassidyTravel.ie and check out offtheball.com.
Right, so the Irish Daily Mirror I'm going to start with this morning. Get me out of here. And it's both Zaha and David Luiz. He skips training after a Lampard row and demands Arsenal switch. Zaha slaps in transfer request to force the Everton move after Toffee's value forward at 100 million. I don't know if Everton have valued Zaha at 100 million. If it's rather that Crystal Palace have. I've seen these know-it-alls play. They're gammy. Great stuff from Patrick Horgan, who obviously was Player of the Month yesterday at the PwC GPA All-Stars, and he was saying he was looking back at the Leinster final, the 1996 Leinster final. I watched the 96 Leinster final on telly last week, and they're gammy. I don't know who they all think they are. Fucking hell. They were all in that situation too, he said. Anthony Daly labelled Cork the flakiest team in the country, and Patrick Horgan's like, I don't know what those lads are thinking. I've looked back, I've seen them play, and they were gammy. So Patrick Horgan should do a lot more media. I don't give a shit. I watched some of those fellas. I don't know who they think they are, talking about the hurling pundits. I don't know, did the hurling pundits have a good year or a bad year? I can't decide. Did they have the fact that this giant debate started about Donald Cusick stuff, where everybody weighed in. The football pundits especially very, very angry about what he'd said. Does that mean that they've had a sensational year?
I think the hurling pundits have had a very similar year to what the soccer pundits have had in the last Premier League season, where they've gone from a place where we valued them as the best, most incisive commentators to a place where they're doing a bit of that, but they're also providing way more entertainment than they've ever provided before.
Who are you talking about from the football?
So, end of last season, when you had Roy Keane and Gary Neville in studio, I think even the Neville aura has worn off a little bit. He's still a very, very good analyst, but I think it's changed a little bit where, I don't know, is it just a couple of more seasons away from the game? Maybe it's just inserting Roy Keane into the studio as we did, wasn't it, the City United game during April, where you have these sensational sound bites as we got, I'm not sure of calling that blaming the British for the sweeper thing in hurling as a soundbite, because it went on for about 40 minutes. But you know what I'm trying to say here. It's kind of like bright lights, very dramatic things being said. So if that's what you want from your pundits, and I think the hurling years have had a very, very good year, how much have we actually learned from hurling punditry this year? I'm not so sure.
It was interesting. Patrick Horgan, obviously, a member of the Cork team who suddenly needs a new manager, and Donal Logue has been linked with this. So he's talking about the pundits, and then at the end, it's like... The question was obviously asked about Donal Logue and Derek McGrath, and he said they were on about the game evolving. You could sit up there all day and say that was a great game, but why? to be fair to him, Donal Logue tries to dig into it as much as he can, get a bit modern rather than just like, oh, brilliant. The more proper analysis they can do, the better. So eventually at the end, he's like, okay, Donal Logue might be my new manager. I'm accepting him from this criticism, which he probably wasn't anyway in the first place. But just to make sure it's there, he's like, my new boss is actually the best one of these people. My potential new boss.
I'm going to move on to the Herald this morning. Mayo must go all out is their headline. It's Michael Murphy who was quoted at the same event yesterday at PwC. You have to hit a big score to beat Dublin, he says. And Stoke are counting on Scott to deliver. So that's Stoke City hoping that Ireland international Scott Hogan can deliver goals after he completed a season-long loan last night. And Romelu ready to do a red runner. Inter make improved offer for Lukaku, and he is in Milan right now.
A reminder, you can listen all day to OTB Sports Radio on offtheball.com and on the Go Loud app. We're live until midnight tonight. It is exactly 7:30 this morning, 7:30. So, that is the back of the Mirror, and they're also confirming that Jason Doherty did his cruise sheet. It looked exactly like that's what it was. The Telegraph. The front page of it is Rebel transfer deadline day. Chelsea's Louise tries to force move to Arsenal. United fine Lukaku while he eyes escape to Italy, and Zaha demands transfer as Everton make move. Does that fine happen now for Romelu Lukaku? Do you think it or is it like, I mean, come on, we all knew what was happening here and you've got your money back, so everybody's happy? Is that just hushed?
Interesting. I don't know. Like, he's still a Manchester United player. They could dangle that over him and say, unless you pay this fine, you're not getting the move, we're not signing off on these papers. Back page of London Times this morning is club turns to spies and fight against racism. So this is Millwall, who are set to use undercover staff to gather evidence on any racist or discriminatory behaviour by their fans. There's been 4 incidents at the club in 13 months. Stewards with body cameras will also be deployed. And Louise wants shock move to Arsenal. There he is pictured on the back page. David Luiz hoping to force through a dramatic move to Arsenal today after missing training at Chelsea yesterday.
The Racing Post, all about the money today, making it pay, and nurseries tend to follow this season. Which jockeys have earned the most? We'll get to that in 1 second. Latrobe about to score for first time since Irish Derby in Ballyroan. It's a Leopardstown preview. And 20 million Saudi Cup set to be richest race in the world. The world has a new richest race, the Saudi Cup, to be run in Riyadh in February and worth $20 million. The prize money and offer for the 9 furlong contest on dirt will eclipse that of the Dubai World Cup, which is a lot of money for a single race. A lot of money.
Back page of the Irish Daily Mail is Mayo blueprint. You need 220 to beat Dublin, says Murphy. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen. Mayo, do they have the capacity to put up 220? You need 20 points anyway, he said yesterday. You need to rack up a score against Dublin, and it's the one thing teams haven't been able to do over the last number of years because they were so mad about how to stop Dublin. You've also got a picture there of Andy Boyle going for a ball last night in Dundalk's 1-0 loss in Bratislava, and Best desperate to banish World Cup regrets. So he's driven, Rory Bestis is, by the need to banish the regrets of the last 3 World Cups by leading Ireland to their first semi-final.
So the richest jockey, how much do you think the richest jockey, according to the Racing Post's 10 big earners among the greatest jockeys? It's a Japanese jockey.
How much they earn per year, how much they're worth in total?
Forever is the figure.
25 million quid.
650 million.
And how many, go through the list there?
Yeah, so this is the number 1.
Yeah, but like, I mean...
That's his career earnings.
This is a jockey in Japan who we obviously know nothing about.
Yutaka Take is his name.
And is it all Japanese jockeys here?
Number 2 is an American. There's number 3 is an American. Christophe Lemaire is number 4. He is in Japan as well. He just broke, in 2017, he broke Take's record for the number of wins in a Japanese season with 215. And broke the £31 million sterling barrier in win and place money.
That is ludicrous. Frankie Dettori doesn't make that list, does he?
Frankie Dettori is good for number 23 on the US money list. They don't say how much it would actually be.
Big bucks. Japanese jockey, that's what I should have been.
It's not too late. You're the right size.
I know.
Profile.
God.
We could do the 10,000 hours thing.
Such a good idea. Like, even if you're, all I want to be is like a top 500 Japanese jockey.
Yeah.
I'll still be a multi-millionaire. I'm not in tomorrow. I'm off sick tomorrow.
The deadline day, 17 hours. I mean, okay, we've got to 7:34. We've come up with a better idea. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Look.
The Irish Times this morning leads with Sucker Punch leaves Dundalk with it all to do, and Lukaku to join Inter after United accept bid. City signed Cancelo from Juventus, while Luiz is in line to join Arsenal. And you've also got Dave Hannigan saying US women's soccer is on a high, but only the rich are allowed to join.
The back of the Daily Star this morning, gunning for exit, and it's David Luiz is the lead there. So Luiz is set to quit Blues and join Tierney in Arsenal switch. So do you know their back four? Is that a terrible question to ask you without giving you any warning about who will actually play for Arsenal in their back four?
Well, it's going to be David Luiz and Shkodran Mustafi in the heart of that defence.
Is it going to be Mustafi, really?
Like, I mean, when I say that the banter era may not be over, I really do mean that. And like Kieran Tierney is going to start as well. So you're gonna I think that you're going to insert a lot of new players immediately into a team that is going to take quite a while to gel, and this is something that I don't quite understand with the Kieran Tierney move especially. I don't mind the David Luiz thing happening on deadline day, but Kieran Tierney going for 25 million quid in a deal that might have been completed a month ago, I'm not so sure, because I don't know, the back four isn't exactly something that was solid for Arsenal last season. You're going to have new signings gelling in quite a few places. You're going to have Nicolas Pepe, who's going to hop into that team as well. So I'm not quite sure. I don't know. Like, it's going to take a couple of weeks for this to become apparent as to whether or not we're actually in a brand new encouraging era for Arsenal.
Do you know what to expect from the starting 11? Like, do you have an idea of what that will be? So they're playing Newcastle first up, right?
Yeah.
You're not sure.
Give me a second.
Okay. I'll remind you of their last team last season, and we'll see from there. More from the Star. Cavan exclusive. Red hand will be too physical for Kerry's young guns. Actually, this is good, Owen, because I want to get your reaction to this. We'll come back to the Arsenal team. Tyrone will lead from the front, says Sean Kavanagh. Owen.
Yeah.
Sean Kavanagh says Tyrone are going to lead from the start. Mm-hmm. They're going to bully Kerry. They're going to have. It's not that they're going to bully them. They're going to be too strong physically for them. Specifically, the big question is whether Kerry's young guns can physically impose themselves and defend like the same young maniacs that graced Croke Park 16 years ago in white. What happened 16 years ago?
I can't remember.
Sean Kavanagh went to Kerry in a league game earlier that year, and he says Darragh O'Shea bullied the entire team, must have caught 15 kickouts. But Tyrone beat Kerry that day. Because, Darragh couldn't do it all on his own.
But the thing was, on that particular day, you've got Tyrone bullying Kerry. Now, Tyrone have obviously changed their mentality quite a bit in recent years, where they're actually happy enough to be bullied themselves a little bit, but they'll just go to ground quite easily. A sack of Spuds kind of comes to mind. It's not something that Sean Kavanagh and his team, to be fair to him, ever would have done. But
they were good divers. They were all good divers at the time.
But they can take a little bit better, I think, than the current Tyrone crop, who will be getting to know the turf at Croke Park quite well, you'd imagine, at the weekend. Like, it's quite easy to hold up examples like Tiernan McCann over the years, but really it's actually a disease inside the Tyrone squad. You will see them go down very easy throughout the day, which is hugely ironic given they'll play up the big hard man act before Sunday. If
you were the Kerry management team, would you be in the ear of the referee the whole way before the game saying, that guy's a diver, that guy's a diver, that guy's a diver, here's a little bit of footage we have of him diving, you've got to keep an eye on that?
You'd like to think so, but you'd like to also think that they wouldn't actually need that.
Yeah, but you do need it. You can't be assuming that something's going to happen, because it turns out that the great teams are always in the ear of the referee, just making sure that they're aware of what's going on. Busy game out there, ref, you can't see everything. Did you see this? I'd be doing that.
Actually focusing on that. You're talking about throughout the game. You're talking about throughout.
I'm talking
70
about
minutes.
Like this week, getting one of your friendly pundits. I'm amazed that you haven't got the WhatsApps from the rest of the Kerry Mafia going, here, listen, maybe that's exactly what you're doing. Point out Tiernan McCann's a diver. Again and again.
I don't think anybody needs to point out what Tiernan McCann has done in recent years.
Absolutely.
But he's obviously worse than a diver after what we saw him do against Donegal this year.
Well, so you need to point that out in the week of the game, right?
Why do I need to point that out? I mean, referees are actual human beings who have eyes, who can see that Tyrone have an incredible record of deceiving other officials. If you're getting a game in Croke Park and a knockout game in front of a big crowd, you better be a good referee. I've got no question. I've got no worries about the referee being able to identify that Tyrone have divers amongst their ranks this weekend.
Well, let's wait and see. His point here is who's going to mark Colin McShane? Matchups has been the theme of the week.
So the best matchup that Kerry have managed to nail down all season, I think, was Tom O'Sullivan on Paddy McBrearty. Now, do you put Tom O'Sullivan, not on Paddy McBrearty, on Jamie Brennan? Is that something that they will look to do again, put him on, like, if he managed to lock down Jamie Brennan, will he be able to lock down Colin McShane? I don't think so. I think you'll actually have Tyg Morley on Colin McShane. Morley was on McBrearty that day, and McBrearty had a pretty good game. Shane Enright, I think, will play out a bit deeper. If Kerry are going to flirt towards the idea of a sweeper at times during the game, then Shane Enright actually being out behind the half back line, or sometimes in front of the half back line, is something that they've done quite well. So I think that's the way they look to go. I've just got the Arsenal team up from the Angers game in pre-season.
Okay.
So let's go through this as to see who's actually going to start. So they started Martinez in goals. They've gone, like, Callum Chambers is somebody that's still at Arsenal and may actually start at centre back, but Mustafi started against Angers. I wanted to get this up to see who's actually still fit and who's still playing. When I look at that in the Medley and Monreal along their back four, Mustafi and Monreal will start, I think, and I think they will start the season. Martinez will not start in goal. Byrne Leno will start in goal.
So is the Mustafi meme and comedy thing not so pronounced that he's not a liability every second he plays?
Perhaps it is. Maybe he will go with Chambers instead of Mustafi. Maybe he will. So this is what I suspect the starting team will be. So it's going to be Leno, it's going to be Tierney, it's going to be Mustafi, it's going to be David Luiz. If he signs, it's going to be Nacho Monreal. Then you've got a midfield that hasn't changed too much from last season. You've got Torreira, you've got Guendouzi, and you've got another. It could be Granit Xhaka. And then you've got a front three, which is the most exciting part of Arsenal's team right now, in Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Nicolas Pepe.
Where's Bellerin?
Hector Bellerin, if you look at Hector Bellerin and him starting at right back at this point, it could happen. Like, is it somebody that you just throw in and somebody that you get behind for the rest of the season and perhaps shift Tierney out to left? Can let Tierney play left back? Then that's something you look at as well in terms of instead of Nacho Monreal. So I don't know. Like, this is the big question mark for me with regards to this Arsenal team is obviously Shkodran Mustafi and the big cloud over his head. Do you just say that the reputation that he's managed to develop for himself over the last couple of seasons, particularly last season, is just too much, and that you just start Callum Chambers instead of him alongside David Luiz? Just go with that, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think if everybody thinks Mustafi's a joke, then maybe you can't build a team around him. The back of the Irish Independent today, Lukaku on the verge of 80 million switch to Inter. That has already happened. Cork's Horgan hits out at criticism from Gammy pundits. Great comments from Patrick Horgan yesterday. It's hard to see Dublin being knocked off their Percy, insists Murphy. I presume they mean Perch, and it's a little typo in the headline. But yeah, Michael Murphy was in the thick of things when Dublin were last defeated in the championship. Donegal shocked them in the 2014 All-Ireland semi-final 5 years ago, obviously. But he can't see anyone stopping them from reaching 5 in a row next month. It's this level of consistency that they seem to be able to bring to it, and they've added more players to their armoury. It's difficult to see any team beating them. Well, teams be competitive, definitely, in the semi-final or final. It's just difficult to see someone beating them.
Guardian goes with, after the photo, people wrote and said how much it helped. That's Magda Eriksson and Pernille Harder on a World Cup kiss that went viral. And Brazilian bound for Arsenal, David Luiz set to leave Chelsea as transfer deadline looms. I am kind of a bit reticent to actually confirm this is going through. But yeah, so I don't know. Like, the more I actually think about this in my head, the more I'm actually not that confident, the Luiz and Mustafi thing. I'm not sure why I said Monreal there will start. Like, it's obviously going to be Tierney who locked down the Monreal position, and Bellerin, of course, will come in at right back. I've got those two mixed up because it's Arsenal.
Bellerin's injured at the minute and expected to return at the end of next month.
So that's why Callum Chambers is being played at right back. So you'll have Chambers, Mustafi, Luiz, and Tierney. And away with it. Go for the title.
Okay, so the Examiner this morning. Who you calling flaky? Patrick Horgan hits back at Cork's critics. Unprotected Kerry defence crying out for leaders, says Sean O'Sullivan. Tommy Martin says ready for the Premier League, just don't mention the VAR. This is one thing that has not really been mentioned that much, but my prediction is that all next week everybody's going to be talking about VAR because it's coming to the Premier League. James Ryan is turning setbacks into driving forces. This is all the pre-World Cup interviews that everybody's doing, where there's just a kind of sense that, like, well, we had our blip in the Six Nations. Good to get that out of the way. With plenty of time to spare for the World Cup. It's good for us, like, not to have that in the World Cup, which would be our traditional World Cup cycle, where we have the blip just at the World Cup. This time we've managed to get it out of the way. We've dealt with it all. Everything's going to be fine. We've definitely recovered. We're going all the way to at least a semi-final, having knocked out either the Springboks or the All Blacks. And then, good column today from Ed Collin. Mayo have the players, but do they have the game plan? And this has kind of been the theme all week has been about matchups, and I'm making the point that like matchups are great and everything, but if you just get obsessed about all the matchups, then what's your style of play and how do you inflict what you're trying to do on the opposition? Somebody, again, I don't want to misquote here, but a piece of analysis last weekend was the thing about the Dubs is that they don't care what you're doing, they'll just continue away with what their plan is, because their game plan is so well honed that they know exactly what everybody's job is, and irrespective of what you're trying to do to disrupt them, they'll find a way to keep doing it, or they'll react and respond. But if you're just obsessed with stopping players, if you're constantly going, well, so we're going to put X marker on Kilkenny and Y marker on Conor Callahan and somebody else on, and we're just going to let them all go one-on-one and we'll see what happens. What are you trying to do? What's your game plan? Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah, it's not.
Just playing the game on Dublin's terms.
Yeah, completely, and you are getting a complete obsession with Dublin at that point. I'm actually interested in what has been the game plan that has worked best against Dublin? We all know what the performances that have worked best against Dublin have been. They've been the Mayo performances in recent years. So,
in the papers today, how do you beat Dublin is obviously the question that everybody gets asked these things, and Michael Murphy was like, you got to score 220, and I wonder about that, right? In those games where Mayo scored the 2 own goals, Dublin didn't reach full fluency. Like, it was a good quality defensive performance, and then Dublin also just didn't play to their absolute peak. Like, if Tyrone hadn't conceded the 2 goals in the first half last year in the All-Ireland semi-final, in the All-Ireland final, then Dublin weren't scoring a huge amount. Like, in the game against Meath, what was the score in the game against Meath at half-time? How many points did Dublin score in that first half against Meath? 4. Meath scored 4.
Meath scored 4 in the whole game.
4-0 at half-time?
No, Meath scored 1 point in the first half, I think, or was it 1 or 2?
Was it 5-1 or something? Was it 4-1? Do you know what I mean? Dublin will eventually score heavily in the second half, but you can also put in a very defensive performance and keep yourself in the game.
You mean a very good defensive performance, not a very defensive plan?
5-1. 5-1.
I wouldn't say that the Meath plan was that defensive in that first half. They just had man markers who were getting the better of the Dublin forwards.
So again, that would lead to the good matchups thing.
Yeah, well, matchups are absolutely vital. It's paramount when you come up against this Dublin team, and
you need more, I think, is my point. That you're going to have we're going to punch them in the mouth somehow, and I don't know if that's running straight at the centre of their defence. I don't know if that's playing a 3-man full forward line or something. I don't know, but obviously greater tactical minds than us are thinking about these questions, so it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. Last one for me is the Irish Sun this morning. KT's a gunner, and this is Cluj 1, Celtic 1, but it didn't really matter. Celtic drew in Romania last night as they lost Kieran Tierney to Arsenal in a record-breaking 25 million deal. Slovan Bratislava 1, Dundalk 0. We're still in with a chance. It's Louise Reid. That's the David Louise story. Luke's all done. Romelu Lukaku. Zaha, let me go. 80 million Everton swoop. And that's the story, a headline on Neil Ashton's story. And
at the Irish News as well this morning. Kerry's lack of fear a big threat, says Conor Myler. And Derry appointment delayed until after second club meeting. So a lack of fear is the biggest thing that Kerry will bring to Tyrone this weekend.
Why do you... Go on.
It's an important thing, isn't it?
Okay, come on.
What? It is a big threat, being fearless.
You're so insincere.
It's so insincere. I mean, it's...
You've been laughing. You read the headline, you started to laugh.
If Tyrone were playing Antrim, Conor Myler would say, they won't be afraid of us coming up to Croke Park. Pressure's all on us. But I'm sure Kerry will appreciate the compliment.
Okay, fair enough. Here's Gaelic Life. Braced for impact, Conor Myler says he's inspired by memories of Tyrone's famous wins over the Kingdom. Plural, multiple wins in the noughties, as Tyrone, obviously, team of the decade. You should look back at that 55 seconds on YouTube. It's amazing. It's one of the most amazing pieces of footage I've ever seen. Short turnaround gives Tyrone the advantage, McGuigan. So I presume this is Brian McGuigan talking about it. Short turnaround isn't ideal, admits new Kerry boss. So certainly there's a theme developing in Gaelic Life where Kerry are unhappy about the short turnaround. Tyrone are very happy about their turnaround because they managed to rest everybody last week.
Oh, it's a big advantage for sure. Like, there's no way of actually turning that around. And Kerry will know better than any other county this season how having a few weeks off helps you go gung-ho and helps you actually ratchet up that intensity a bit. Even if you're not playing the previous week, it happened to them against Mayo, and Mayo got caught very, very leggy. So it's a massive concern. There's no question about that. I mean,
there's not a way to go, young team, iron sharpens iron, game, let's go. This is exactly what you want. It would have been a boring week in training anyway, if they'd been like, in Tyrone's case, it was like E15 over there playing. E15 are obviously being wrapped in cotton wool because you're our superstars, and these guys over here know there's almost no chance of them playing meaningful minutes. Some of them, obviously, there's 2, I think. Tiernan McCann got game time, and Sludden came off the bench. So, but after that, it was basically a sub.
So what's your point? You're saying that it's just more crack and Kerry training this week. What's the point you're trying to make? Like, how is wrapping them in cotton wool going to be not an advantage to them?
The Kerry lads to play a game.
I would say that if you offer Peter Keane Tyrone's situation instead of their own situation, they would 100% take Tyrone's situation.
You were talking about Tyrone's hard men going down easy. John Fogarty has been in touch of the Examiner to say, and Kerry aren't literate in simulation?
They probably are, yeah. I just didn't talk about Kerry in that answer. Like, I was just talking about Tyrone. Like, you asked me about Tyrone, so I told you about Tyrone. Yeah,
fair enough. I mean, I do think that if I was involved in the management of a team and I was coming up against Tyrone, I'd be pointing out their ability to go down easy. I'd just be making a big deal.
Well, I think Tyrone are definitely the best at simulation and everybody in the country. If Kerry were better than everybody else at simulation, I would 100%, I hold up my bias here, I would 100% be saying, well, it's up to the referee to spot that. So I'll accept that perhaps there's a double standard.
It is 7:51 this morning. You're watching OTB AM. It's hour 1 of our 17-hour deadline day bonanza today. You can listen to our coverage all day over at the OTB Sports Radio through offtheball.com or on the Go Loud app, which you can download at the Play Store, or you can also get it on the App Store on iTunes. We're live after 8 o'clock with Conor Hourihane, John Duggan, Michael Rice and Kieran Donaghy. Right now, we're talking to Leinster and Irish rugby star Jack Conan, who popped into the studio yesterday for the launch of This Is My Dublin campaign. We're back with Jack straight after these.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
With over 15,000 coolers available to hire or buy, HSS Hire has a cooling solution for every workplace. Research shows staff are happier when their surroundings are comfortable. And with HSS Hire's range of fans, air conditioners and coolers, you can transform hot and stuffy into cool and calm. Drop into your local HSS with branches nationwide in Dublin, Waterford, Cork, Limerick and Galway and get up to 50% off your first hire. HSS Hire, you're better equipped.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100. That's right. New Irish accounts can enjoy a risk-free first bet up to €100. So if your first bet loses, we'll refund your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In-store, online and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
How could a KBC personal loan make a difference to you? Make a difference to your... Make a difference to your... Make a difference to your... Or make a difference to your... Apply for a personal loan with KBC to find out how we can make a difference to you and your pocket. KBC, the bank of you. Lending criteria, underwriting, terms and conditions apply. KBC Bank Ireland plc is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Let's face it, the Irish summer has serious commitment issues. It's always late, disappears for weeks at a time, and consistently breaks its promises. But not us. At Electric Ireland, we're committed to giving you an 8.5% saving on your gas and electricity year after year after year after year. Visit electricireland.ie/join for the kind of commitment you deserve.
Estimated annual bill €1,736. Average consumption, urban 24-hour, discounted unit rate, standing charge, PSO levy and carbon tax. Residential, dual fuel, direct debit and online billing. Terms and conditions apply. See electricireland.ie/EAB. Rates at 1st of April 2019. Subject to change.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Okay, so Ireland international Jack Conan is with us in studio. He was speaking at the launch of the This Is My Dublin campaign, promoting Dublin City Sports Fest 2019. Now, Sports Fest is a week-long celebration of sport and physical activity from the 23rd to the 29th of September. Everyone is encouraged to participate, regardless of age, ability or background. For more information, visit dublincity.ie/sportsfest. That's dublincity.ie/sportsfest. Jack, how are things?
Good, yeah, no, feeling good. It's nice to be in a bit of camp for a few hours, so I'm making the most of it.
And at long last, a game this weekend. I know you're probably not going to be involved, but a game nonetheless. I'm sure the coaching team are just as happy about that as anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few of the lads now, a few of the Type 5 are happy to see the back of pre-season for a few days and get them to stop doing a few sprints. So it's nice to get back to normality in some sense and kind of turn your focus to a game.
When it comes to Ireland camp these days, for you, do you just feel a bit more comfortable there, that you kind of deserve to be there, that you're fully established as an Ireland international at this point?
Yeah, after been in the camp for the last few years, obviously the first time you're in is pretty nerve-wracking. You think, every single training session, like if I mess up here, this will be the end of me. So the kind of intensity of it wears off a little bit, and you become a bit more comfortable to be able to just do your own thing and enjoy it a bit more. And especially at the moment in pre-season, when there's now kind of imminent games on the weekend, it takes that bit of stress off. You can just go out and train hard and put a lot of effort in, but it's slightly less of a stressful time, but now kind of big game in the weekend.
How long does it take to get to that level of comfort?
I suppose I'm probably a bit of a nervous soul. Probably took me a bit longer than others. You see kind of the younger lads coming in, like Jordan Larmer rocks in, just not a care in the world. Just he's out there throwing a ball around with his mates, and it's kind of unfazed by it all. I was probably a bit more of a nervous wreck, and so afraid of doing something wrong that I probably ended doing nothing. Where you kind of see the young lads now coming in with so much confidence, and they're just kind of like completely unfazed by it. And I think it's definitely a trait I wish I had more of when I was their age. Jordo and James Ryan, even Jacob Stockdale, and those lads just so natural and so easy for them.
Do you think that it was because perhaps you were a little bit older coming into the international setup? Like, I think your Six Nations debut was at the age of 25. Whatever making my Six Nations debut, I think when I first came in for my first camp, I think it might have been 22. I think it was probably the kind of age demographic of the squad was probably a bit different to what it is now. I think you probably had a lot of kind of older lads, kind of a bit more experience, where now it's more of a youthful mix. You've obviously got your Rory Best and your Johnny Sexton, obviously Pete, who's had so much experience, but still is 29 or whatever it is. So it's I think there's a kind of wider age gap, and things are a bit more kind of diluted in the sense that it's not just kind of lads at the kind of the peak of their career or in the latter stages of their career. It's more of a mix. Do you think you were a late developer?
I probably wasn't as mature as I could have been when I was younger in a few different aspects of life, but I feel I probably just took a while to grow into myself and be a bit more comfortable, especially on the pitch and when I was training. So you could probably say it's probably a bit of a late developer, yeah. How
do you mean you didn't have that maturity?
I look back now and I probably wasted a few opportunities. The first few times I was in the camp, I probably didn't maximise those opportunities. I probably didn't know what was needed of me or what level I had to be at to kind of play at that level, and it probably didn't hit me till like a few years later when I kind of been in and out a few times and saw the level of detail that's needed to kind of perform on such a big stage.
Do you think it was impacted as well by the fact that, I guess compared to other back rows, you might have started off a little bit later, because you started off as a tight head prop, I think, in school?
Well, I only played tight head prop now for about a few months, like when I first started off in Gerrards, I'd never seen a rugby ball till I was about 13 or 14 when I started off in Gerrards, so I didn't really like the sport. I was terrible at it. I hadn't a clue what was going on, and then I think I was about 14, had a bit of a growth spurt. Went into second year a bit taller, a bit rangier, so I got thankfully bumped down into the second row, and then started to kind of enjoy my rugby a bit more. It wasn't as miserable being in the second row compared to the front row. So thankfully then again a year after I kind of got pushed down to the back row, and I've settled here, and I definitely feel a hell of a lot more comfortable playing number 8 than I did playing tight head prop. I don't know how long it would have lasted competing with Tig and the rest of the lads in there. They've a few kilos on me at this stage.
So what were you doing up until the age of 13 or 14 then?
For me, I always, my first love would have been Gaelic football. I played in Kilmac, where I went to primary school. Whether it was soccer with Glencormac or football with Kilmac, they were kind of my first loves. And never even thought about playing rugby. There was no real rugby clubs around. Obviously, you had Greystones, but that wasn't something that I kind of started. I didn't play for Greystones till I was about 16 or 17. So at that stage, it was all Gaelic really, and a bit of football on the side. So that was my first love, and it wasn't until I kind of got into Gers that I get a taste for it. And even then, it took me a while to kind of come to love the game.
Were you any good at football?
I wasn't bad. Played for Wicklow, underage teams. I'm not sure if that's a huge kind of accomplishment, playing for Wicklow.
Better than most people.
Well, yeah. So that's where I kind of honed my skills a little bit. Playing for Wicklow under 16, then in Avondale and Knockram and other far field places.
What position were you?
Midfield, and then probably when I got a bit older and a bit slower, I was moved into fullback. I definitely, I don't, in hindsight now, I don't know if I would have had the engine to play midfield, but no, I loved it, and it's definitely something I can see myself going back to do when I have the boots.
That'd be class. Do you think then that kind of helped with the development when it eventually accelerated a little bit more, having that range of skills from a younger age?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I would always back my skill set and my ability with ball in hand, and even feeling a high ball if I had to. You look at other players. Obviously, Rob Kearney's a well-documented player who's come out and had told his love for Gaelic football and how much help that gave him playing when he was growing up in Louth. So I think it definitely helped me. Those kind of hand-eye coordination skills that you need at a young age to play Gaelic, and even a bit of hurling that I played for Brahmas back in the day, I think is definitely something to pay dividends as I get older.
So who was it that told you that you're pretty good at this thing when you get moved into the back row eventually?
Tony Ward would have been a kind of one of my first mentors when it came to rugby when I was about. He was head of games in Gers, and he would have someone I've always, even now, I'd still talk to frequently enough about my career, especially a few years ago when I kind of had opportunities to move afield, and I would have always asked his opinion and valued what he had to say, because obviously he knew the game so well and had so much experience. So Tony was kind of always, even when other coaches and other opportunities didn't go my way, he was always fighting for me. He was always pushing for me, and I was in my corner. So I always think I owe a lot to him.
So when you say move afield, you mean, was it leave Leinster?
Yeah, I had a few opportunities when I was younger to kind of go other places. Obviously, such competition in the back row at Leinster. Even the likes, Jordan Coughlin who just signed for Leicester, Conor Gilson who's in London Irish, and those lads were in my year in school and got into the academy ahead of me. And obviously the massive kind of amount of back rowers in Leinster at that time, and Kevin McLaughlin, St Jennings, Jamie, Shawnee. Then there's obviously Reese and Dippy and stuff, and the lads were still young, and Geordie was still just about to crack on. So there was a massive kind of blockage in line to getting into that starting position for Leinster, even getting a cap. So at different stages I thought maybe it'd be best to look somewhere else, and I had a few different offers, but looking back now, I'm glad I waited it out.
Absolutely. Were they offers from the Premiership or even further afield?
No, there was one or two from Premiership, and then there was a good few offers from different places here as well. Okay. So I could have gone to different provinces, which would have been obviously so different, considering I've always been involved with Leinster. But I'm glad I stuck to my guns and backed myself, and I think I've come out on the right side of it.
Do you still keep in touch with Tony when it comes to even asking for advice, even, or you're probably beyond that point now, are you?
No, even not in the last kind of year or two, but the last 3 or 4 years I would have spoken to him if I had any kind of queries about different contracts or what he thought, or even aspects of my game that he would have thought I needed to work on. So, he's always been some good, reliable source for me to go to contact if I needed advice.
He was basically a mentor for you before you go to college. I think you go to DIT to study marketing then, and you still have to work your ass off to actually make it at that point. It's not like a prodigy who comes in and everybody knows he's going to be a superstar sort of thing.
No, I was far from it. I don't think there was too many people shouting for Jack Conan to be fast rated straight into the Leinster team. So it took me a while to kind of hone my skills and kind of better myself to a position where I could even get into the academy and then make the most of those opportunities to push on and get a few caps. So yeah, a bit of a slow burner at the start.
I always feel a little bit of sympathy, not too much sympathy, for the soon-to-be successful rugby players who have to give up all the enjoyment of college to actually go to training, I presume, early in the morning to actually try and make it.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be out with Dave Fagan in the Sub Academy, and anyone who's been out there will know how testing that can be, out in a porta cabin at 6:30, 7 o'clock on a Monday morning, and it's the bar is frozen, and it's sticking to your hands when you're trying to lift weights, and it's barely any AC, and Dave shouting at you and nearly chasing around the gym trying to hit you with a stick. So it's that was definitely kind of weeded out the lads who wanted it, and then the lads who probably thought, right, this is enough for me, I'll leave it here. So I always kind of thought, as when I was younger, if I'm not probably as naturally as gifted as other lads, I'll have to work that bit harder and make sure that I want it more than they do. And luckily enough, I think it paid dividends massively.
Who would have been your first Leinster senior coach? Matt O'Connor, would it?
Yeah, so Matt would have been. I got one cap back in, what was it now, 2014, maybe 2014 at this stage, against, or maybe even before, against Cardiff. And then I had to wait another few months before I got my second. I think there would have been Matt's first few months in charge, and then Leo was just transitioning from player into coach as well. So it was himself and Matt who were kind of taking the reins at Leinster.
So what does someone like Matt O'Connor say to you when you're about to make that break, in terms of making you feel welcome and I guess giving you the belief in your own capabilities at that point?
Yeah, I always got along really well with Matty, and he was great for me. He was fond of me as a player, and he gave me so many opportunities. And I ended up making my European debut as well the next year, and gone on to play 20 odd times, which was massive considering I played once the year before. So Matty was always just an advocate, just kind of to back yourself, trust your own ability, and work hard, and things will happen for you. And he obviously he didn't last. He wasn't in Leinster too long, but at the time, Wonderham was what I really enjoyed, and he'll always be the coach that kind of gave me my first opportunity. Yeah,
I always say that there's such a selection of great minds to actually help you through that development stage in Leinster rugby, because as you mentioned, after Matt, then you have Leo and you have Stuart as well on top of that, some great captains as well through the place, from Isa to Johnny and all that. So it's a great education if you're actually a bit of a sponge to take it all in. Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's so many kind of different rugby thoughts, mindsets, and you see them in all the different coaches. And then obviously Stuart's come in the last few years, and he's his knowledge and in depth of the game is just incredible. And I think he's one of my favourite coaches I've ever played under. He's the way he wants to play the game, I think, suits me massively, and it suits Leinster rugby as well. It's expansive, and it's exciting to watch. And I think you only have watched a few of the games over the last few years, and you see how much we throw it around and kind of that exciting style that we play. And we've gone on to win some great things under him, and hopefully it's only the start. With his input, and then the likes of Leo as well, who's transitioned so well from being a player to a coach. Leinster is such an exciting place to be, and I'm really proud to have played a small part of it, and hopefully there's still lots more to come. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the style of play there, because we often marvel at Tyke Furlong offloading the ball, but I think you offloading the ball with your shorts half the way down against Ulster this year was probably the highlight of the season. Yeah, in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have made note of it in my after-match comments, and then I was like, I'm never going to live this down. Everyone's going to be saying this for the rest of my days. So there'd actually been a few weeks previously that I was my shorts come nearly all the way down, and there was a lot on show, so I'm at least happy that there was, I was wearing fairly tight undershorts, so there wasn't more of a show. So look, that was a great day. Anytime you get to play for Leinster in the Aviva is really special, and especially those derby games in Europe in knockout stages against Ulster was something really special. Obviously probably not the best performance on our behalf, and we were lucky to come out on the right side of it. We needed a mistake or two from the other lads to kind of get over the line. But that was great, and definitely running up the sideline with my shorts out around my knees was something I won't forget for a while. So in a month's time, or close to a month's time anyway, you'll be on a plane to Japan at this point. Please God. I guess when you look at what happened this week, you've got 2 players culled from the squad. There'll be another cull against this week. Is there a feeling that nobody's safe at this moment? Yeah, I think the kind of false sense of security of pre-season was quickly washed away when lads are starting to get cut as they did last week. So I think it kind of reminds you of the imminent fate if you're not at your best, and you're not. And that's not to say that the lads weren't. It's obviously a very tough position. The standards are so incredibly high, and you've got so many experienced lads in every single position. No one's safe. So it's about just taking these opportunities over the next few weeks, and
obviously putting your hand up from everything pre-season, making sure you're showing to the coaches how hard you're working, and when it comes to these warm-up games, just applying those things that we've been working on so hard in the last few weeks, and those kind of tweaks to our game that we've made over the course of pre-season, so the coaches see that you're fitting into the structures and you're able to implement game plans.
Yeah, because I guess it's kind of a two-way street. You're kind of looking over your shoulder to ensure there's no one coming behind you, and then in your specific case, the general tone out there is that it's you versus CJ for the 8 jersey. Now, like I was talking to Jamie Heaslip at a show a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that actually you should be starting at 8, and I said, should CJ be dropping? He's like, no, not at all. He can also play in the back row, and that versatility that you bring as well, he can play 6. That's something that's so important, I presume, at this point when it comes to actually looking around and keeping your place within the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when we get over to Japan, there's going to be injuries. There's going to be lads who pick up small niggles who mightn't be available for a certain game, and there'll have to be some element of reshuffling. So I think to be able to play, in another position is definitely another strength to someone's bow. And even though I don't have a whole lot of experience playing 6 at international level, I did get my first cap there, 4 weeks ago, I think next week. So it's something I am capable of doing. I've done, as you mentioned, Jamie there, when he was playing in Leinster, the two of us, many times I played at 6 and he played at 8, so it's something more I'm capable of doing, and hopefully it's something the coaches look at as well and see that I have that versatility and the ability to cover in multiple positions. So when it comes to making those decisions, it leans more in my favour.
Well, Jack, very best of luck with the next couple of weeks. Thanks, Minnie, for popping in.
Cheers, thank you.
Jack Conan was speaking at the launch of the hashtag This Is My Dublin campaign promoting Dublin City Sports Fest 2019. Sports Fest is a week-long celebration of sport and physical activity from the 23rd to the 29th of September. Everyone is encouraged to participate regardless of age, ability or background. For more information, visit dublincity.ie/sportsfest.
All right, it's 11 minutes past 8 this morning. You're very welcome along to OTB AM. We're here with you until midnight tonight. I know, it's a little bit strange. We're here until 10 o'clock, myself and Eoin. A little bit later on, John Duggan's going to be here. John, how are you?
Good morning, Ger and Eoin. I'm great. I'm really buzzed about the new season.
And today...
Yeah, we got John O'Shea and we got Brian Kerr between 10 and 12. We got Phil Egan. It's going to be absolutely mega on Off the Ball.
You're dressed up for the occasion, or else you got a court appearance later on that you're not telling us.
The bigger the event, the higher wattage my mind goes. So I get into a certain mode. We're in a big mode now. We're in Port Rush mode. We're in like transfer mode. We're in Off the Ball 17 hours on offtheball.com/radio on the Go Loud app. We're in big mode here.
Yeah, exactly. And the hashtag OTB17 is the one we're using because we are live for 17 hours today. A reminder as well, YouTube, not a bad place to catch us all day. We've just hit 25 million views and over 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. You can subscribe there for all the best reaction analysis and breaking news. It's all free whenever and wherever you want it. John, you've had a shout out for memorabilia. If anybody has any good quality memorabilia out there that's Premier League related.
Yeah, if you have a story to tell, you can tweet us at Off the Ball, or like photos for a game you've been at. It could be like going back a good few years, or just in the recent past, maybe with your friends, or like a good photo of a stadium, maybe not one of the traditionally popular stadiums, or jerseys, kind of like, unusual, quirky jerseys from the Premier League era that you might have, away jerseys and that kind of thing. So we want people to get involved. We want people to share their memories. We got Simon Delaney, the actor and broadcaster, on as well between 10 and 12, just talking about his obsession with Manchester United. And we want the fans to get involved. It's just not all about us talking about transfers and talking to football experts. It's also about getting the sense of how people feel about the competition, the new season, what their predictions are, who's going to be the top 4, who's going to win the title, who's going to be a surprise team, who's going to be the Golden Boot winner, who's going to be relegated, and getting a sense of, because there's so many, I know myself going to airports, we all know, and Brian is the key example of that. I remember even coming back on a flight with Brian one time, and the amount of people just coming up to him and saying, hi, how you doing, and getting a photo with him. There are a lot of people travel to games from Ireland, and it's not trying to be morbid here, but every time you go around a cemetery, you see the amount of people that have had passion for Liverpool or Manchester United or Leeds or Chelsea or Everton or West Ham. So there is a real emotional connection with a lot of clubs across the way in what is a global league.
For sure. We're asking everybody today who is actually winning the transfer window. The debate this morning was raging before we came on air. You scoffed openly in the office at...
Well, that's more trolling Owen Sheahan beside me. Owen Sheahan, his rage yesterday, and it's just more to stoke that rage. But he seems to be a happier bunny today.
Oh, big time. Big time. You must be a happier bunny here today.
David Luiz is a done deal, by the way. You were like, 25 minutes ago, you were beginning to doubt publicly. You were doubting Thomas, like, no, this isn't going to happen now. I've got myself too worked up. My hopes have been dashed so often by Arsenal in the past that I don't want to just say, yeah, it's definitely happening. But actually, the BBC are reporting that a fee of £8 million has been agreed and it's going to happen.
And it's David Ornstein, no less, who's reporting it. He is the saviour of Arsenal fans. My favourite subculture on Twitter is looking at replies to David Ornstein on Twitter when a big move by Arsenal happens. He's head photoshopped onto the Messiah quite often, or whatever it may be. So he is the Messiah on Twitter this morning for announcing that.
I wouldn't say that's my favourite thing to do on Twitter, but I respect your true belief of the red shirts, and you'll finish fourth possibly because of these transfers. So Arsenal have had a good few days.
So patronising.
No, just more truthful. Maybe the Cronkies listened to that open letter. That seems to what have happened, I think.
I mean, so the Cronkies spend a lot of money on their American football team. They absolutely invested really heavily in free agency over the last couple of seasons, and they've got a hotshot young coach, and it didn't make any sense to me that they were sitting on the asset of Arsenal and not investing in it, because the Premier League, like if you watch what Liverpool have done in the last couple of seasons, the Premier League, if you've got a good manager and a good team and everybody unified, you can be very effective, you can compete. Granted, there is always the problem of Manchester City, who are entering a phase of dominance in the same way, at the same extreme level of dominance that we've seen Dublin, say, in GAA. But like what Liverpool did last season wasn't done on the basis of $500 million. It was done on the basis of a good manager and wisdom in the transfer market.
Yeah, very good scouting system, very good people in the kind of the backroom staff and that kind of thing, and getting good signings in, like Salah being the key one. Wasn't he really like a transform player when he went under Klopp? So, and making like savvy signings. Okay, Coutinho left, but getting Alisson and Van Dijk in. So, yeah, I'm excited about Tottenham. I think Tottenham will probably have done their business, given the way the club is run and structured with Lo Celso and Sessegnon. I can't see Dybala coming, but you never know. There's always surprises, but generally this has been quite a predictable transfer window so far, but we're hoping for some surprises before 5.
All right. You think, so far, Spurs have won the transfer window?
It's going to be like 3rd and 4th in May. They've edged Arsenal.
You really think they'll only edge Arsenal at the end of the season? I would have thought you'd be here beating your chest saying it's going to be a 15-point win.
Maybe 5 points or something, but no, I do think Arsenal now, given the business they've done, are now ahead of Chelsea and United.
Yera, Spurs.
We're going to get to Kieran Donaghy in just a couple of minutes' time, but first I'm delighted to say Conor Hourihane is with us. Good morning to you, Conor. How are you getting on?
Hi lads, how you doing?
Yeah, we're pretty excited. I'm a Villa fan, so I'm very excited about the start of the Premier League season. So I can only imagine what it's like for you guys, because there's been a huge influx of new talent. You've signed a new deal. Everything's going really well for you guys. How are you feeling about the whole thing?
Yeah, I'm very excited, of course. We're counting down to the kickoff now, which is great. Pre-season is kind of out of the way. And like there's a big buzz around the club, all right, and really looking forward to getting started.
How is your own pre-season? Is it still as grim as it used to be 20 years ago, where we hear the stories of everybody puking, or is it actually much easier now, because the level of professionalism from everybody has reached a point where I'd say your fitness is probably pretty good all season?
Yeah, listen, them days are kind of gone, to be honest with you. Don't get me wrong, there's some tough days in pre-season, all right, but listen, it's probably easier than what it was back in the day now, but it's more like the pre-season schedules are pretty hectic. We're travelling here, there and everywhere. It takes a lot out of you. And there's a lot of games now as well for match minutes. It's all about match minutes all the time now, because it's hard to replicate that in training. So I know, listen, it's just a full-on schedule. Like you said, the lads are in great shape anyway. I had 3 weeks off this year, so I'm not going to lose too much in the space of 3 weeks. So it's just about topping yourself up and getting ready for that first game, really.
You're obviously somebody who has responded really well to competition throughout your career. You've kind of come up the hard way, played in every division, and always managed to get in teams the whole way along. So I presume you're looking at an influx of talent as something that, this is great, bring it on, let me show you exactly what I can do, and you're not taking my position without a massive fight.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's been a huge number of players come in. There's been no secret of that. Everyone's talking about it. So, it's going to be a challenge, of course. I like you said, I've done it the hard way. I've always kind of risen to the challenges. So, another one that I'm looking forward to, and another one that I'm sure I'll be okay in. Whatever minutes I do get, I'm just have to make sure I'm ready, play well, and then lay down my marker whenever I get a chance.
Dean Smith didn't have a pre-season with Aston Villa last year. It was obviously, he came in I think around October, November time, and didn't really get a full pre-season to instill his style of play, his game plan, exactly what he wants from everybody. Has that extra time changed? Do you have a deeper understanding of what it is exactly you're supposed to do, or is it just building on how quickly he installed his game plan last year anyway?
Yeah, listen, our game plan obviously worked well last year. We had a bit of a good patch when he first came in, then a rough patch kind of around January, February, and then we just kicked on towards the end of the season. And luckily for us, we got promoted. So listen, the lads kind of knew their jobs anyway. With the time the gaffer had it with us last year, but I think it was more this pre-season was for the new lads. There's been a lot of new lads come in, so it's about kind of them finding their feet and finding how we play, and the gaffer putting it across to them. So there's been a lot of kind of tactics and different bits and pieces. So everyone's on the same page and heading into the season.
When do you find out what the team is for the first game of the season? When does that get announced to the players? Even I'm obviously not asking you to breach any confidences here, but do you get a sense of whether or not you're in the team at this stage of the week, or is it kind of a couple of hours before kick-off?
No, you kind of get an idea probably on the Friday. That's about as much as we kind of know about it. I'd imagine, listen, the manager will know his team by now, but if you give out your team too early, in my opinion, sometimes you lose a few of the lads, and you can have a few grumpy lads around the place. So no, it's been the same last year, and I'd imagine it was the same this year. So we usually get told around the Friday whether you're kind of playing or not.
Okay, so it's an interesting kind of 24, 48 hours ahead of everybody involved. Obviously the transfer window hasn't closed just yet, and Villa might do some more business. Certainly Scott Hogan has just gone to Stoke, so there might be some people leaving, but the main focus will be on trying to get in that team in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I'd imagine that there might be a couple of outs as well, because our squad's quite heavy at the minute. Like you said, Scott's gone to Stoke, all right, so it'd be good for him to get some games. And you never know, we might be in the market for one or two more. I wouldn't be surprised about the numbers we've brought in, so maybe one or two more might be coming in the door yet.
Yeah. Is this the best pre-season that you can remember, the most exciting? I mean, obviously the chance to play in the Premier League beckons for everybody. You all fought so hard last season, so you clearly deserve it. But has this been the best pre-season that you remember?
I think so. Obviously, the huge excitement of getting promoted, and then getting ready for the Premier League, and different kind of media days you have to do, and the number of cameras around the place compared to the Championship is on another level. So them kind of things excite you. The first day of training when you're playing with the Premier League ball, little bits and pieces like that to make you think, oh, we're actually in the Premier League here, So no, it's been hugely exciting. Counting down the days, like I said, for the last few weeks now to the Tottenham game on Saturday, so we're really looking forward to it.
Has there been a deliberate altering in the mindset over the course of the off-season, Conor? Like, without giving anything away, there's obviously situations like having less possession in the Premier League. I'm sure the number one objective is to stay safe as opposed to actually going towards the top of the table. Has there been that noticeable shift?
A little bit, I suppose. Listen, we can't go into the season too naive, thinking we're going to win every game, we're going to have possession like the way we did last year. That's not going to happen. There's some fantastic teams in the league, but I think we're going to go. The manager's been saying he wants to go in with a winning mentality as much as possible. Try and win games, not just sit back. So I think the lads, the stuff that we have been talked about is exciting. He's not just happy just to kind of nick a point here and there in the Championship. His mentality was he always wanted to win games. So I think you won't see too much difference in our style, which is it's great to know, and it's great to be a part of, because we've got a brave manager who wants to win games, and that's always good for players. It always excites players, and it's always the kind of team that you want to play in.
I was chatting recently to somebody who's an expert on viewership figures, and he said that when Villa got relegated, the overall viewership figures for the Premier League went down, because Villa are such a big club that actually fans of whoever they were playing would automatically tune into the Villa game, because it was just a sense of it being a big game. So they're a genuinely massive club right across England. And I'm not sure that everybody at the club probably had the full understanding of that over the last couple of seasons, when they, obviously it feels like a massive club, but until you get back to the Premier League, it could go either way, because there's loads of the Championship is a graveyard for formerly massive clubs, but they're back now. There must be a sense of fully understanding exactly just how big a club it is and what the responsibility of the team is to the city in some ways.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, it's a huge football club. When I came to the club a couple of years back, when I left Barnsley, I knew it was a big club, but I didn't realise how big it was. When I go back to Ireland, Cork, and when I'm in Dublin for the Ireland games, there's a lot of Aston Villa fans come up to me and say, "Oh, I'm a Villa fan. It is a big football club. Selling out home and away last year. And that sense of kind of being back in the Premier League now kind of makes us feel like we're back where we belong. But obviously, listen, it's going to be a big season for us, and ultimately we need to stay up, because if we can stay up, and build on that moving forward, we can definitely be a force in the league again."
Yeah, the other thing is you managed to go viral by explaining to the BBC how to correctly pronounce your surname. It was like, well done.
Yeah. We had a media day recently, and they actually brought the question to me. So I thought, this is my chance to kind of let people know now. It's Hourihane anyway. But I thought our Irish people pronounced it right anyway. But supposedly people don't. But I'll let them know anyway, and we'll see over the course of the season will it stick or not.
Yeah, well, we'll all do our best. Conor, good stuff. Thanks a million, and best of luck.
Cheers. No problem. Cheers, guys.
Conor Hourihane there, teaching us all how to pronounce his name properly, and Alec, just a good guy who has fought his way through all the. There's a bunch of players who make it eventually from Ireland to the Premier League, who go through the divisions and who are just a great story and a ringing endorsement of the character of Irish football, where it looks like it would be pretty easy for them at various stages to go, look, I tried my best and I came home and did whatever, but kept going. Like, something happens along the way, and it's not a million miles away from Keith Andrews' story. And then Keith goes on to have like a long period of time where he's one of Ireland's most important players, and then also has that background where he understands exactly how football works in all the divisions, and so can then translate that into a coaching career where it's easy for him to understand what the best players are going through and what the worst players are going through, and everybody in between. So look, I hope, I don't know if Conor has any interest in becoming a coach, but certainly I'd be happy enough if that's where his path takes him over the next decade or so.
Yeah, for sure. It's also great to have Aston Villa back, and they're not going to come back without a fight, as we've already been speaking about in terms of the money that they've spent. Some really exciting signings as well, like Trezeguet, the Egyptian attacking midfielder they've signed, looks quite the player. They've had some brilliant pre-season results. They beat RB Leipzig in pre-season. I know they start away to Spurs on the opening day of the season, but I think things get a little bit easier for them over the next 4 fixtures after that. So it should be a situation where they can almost look at what Wolves did last season. Not as dramatic as that, but what Wolves did last season was they started the year quite well, and there could be a couple of wins in those first 5 fixtures.
27 minutes past 8 this morning on OTB AM. We're here with you all day until midnight tonight. The Shot Clock with Kieran Donaghy is live next. First though, here's the former Dublin boss Peter Caffrey in studio talking to Joe last night to look back on some of the best Dublin Mayo clashes, none more famous than the Mill on the Hill in 2006.
In my 4 years in charge of Dublin, that was the toughest day at the office. Don't mind the stuff that happened beforehand, like that was showbiz in terms of, I've no doubt a fella called Dee Brady was in the middle of that.
He denies it's him.
Does he? Yeah. I think he's been known to tell a white porkies now and again. I love the fact that...
What are we basing it? Your insiders, is this guard information you're using to track down Dee Brady or what?
I'm just recently retired, so I can say what I like now. But no, I've no doubt that Mickey Morden and the great John Morrison, my old buddy, they had no knowledge that when the boys went over to photograph, the shout came, let's go to the hill end.
The management team didn't know?
No, absolutely not. No. And look...
And I'd actually believe that, because I would say, as a management team, if you're Mickey Moran, you think, why do we want to risk distracting ourselves with this?
No. And look, people say it cost us the match, or it actually didn't, because you know what? We had a decent start. It was actually a very good game. We came out in the second half, played really good football. We're 6 points up with, I think, 80 minutes gone in the second half.
2-11 to 10 points after 47 minutes. So if it caught anyone on the hop, it was Mayo that it distracted.
Yeah, no, and I would honestly think that it didn't catch anybody in the hop, because Mayo went down there, did it. It just shows you the value of good warm-ups probably is negatived by this whole argument, because neither team got a proper warm-up done. It was just mayhem down there.
A bit of mayhem coming this weekend, a bit of mayhem coming your way in the next 15 minutes with Shot Clock. Kieran Donaghy, good morning to you.
Morning, Jar. How's the farm?
Good. I'm as excited about this weekend's Gaelic football as I've been, I'd say, since 2010.
Yeah, it is. It's there's a huge buzz around. Everybody's talking about it. It's great. Look, it's whatever about the Super 8s. It's thrown us out probably the best 4 teams left, and I suppose that's all you can ask for, isn't it?
Yeah, and we know enough about both teams. We've seen their first team play at some point or other. In Dublin's case, maybe even we've seen it twice. Who knows?
We've seen it too much.
Where are we starting this week?
We're going to just start on systems versus matchups, George. I want to get your thoughts on what's more important and what's going to be the key to, I suppose, mainly the Dublin and Mayo game the weekend.
A good column today from Colin in the Examiner, making this very point that it's well and good coming up with players to try and beat Dublin, but unless you actually have a system and a game plan, and unless you actually have a philosophy that overrides absolutely everything, so when it comes down to it, you're not leaving it down to the individual player to make a decision that's going to win you or lose you the game when the game is on the line in the last 5-10 minutes. That everybody's role is drilled into them. They know exactly what they're supposed to do at every point during the game, and so a level of trust builds up. The way Dublin have managed to, ever since Donegal beat them 5 years ago, you look at that team and you always know that with 10 minutes left to go, no one is going on a solo run. No one is actually just taking the game and saying, okay, I'm going to go off now and try and be a hero. They all stick to exactly what their routine is because that has been drilled into them. They have a very bespoke style of play. There's a case to be made that at this stage in the evolution of the other teams that actually Tyrone are the most likely ultimately to beat this Dublin team because they do have a game plan that they all believe in and they do have a sense of exactly what their responsibilities are. Now, maybe their forwards aren't good enough to rack up the score that you need to win a game against Dublin. We're going to have to wait and see, and maybe they don't even get the opportunity to play against Dublin this year. I just think that there's been a massive over-exaggeration of the importance of the matchups from Mayo's perspective this weekend, because if they don't actually have a game plan to try and score 220 is the figure that Michael Murphy says, then there's no point in getting your matchups right.
I like matchups are important, but I think we talk about Dublin's system, this Dublin system is why they win. It's the Dublin system is easy enough to play when you've got the calibre of players that Dublin have all over the pitch. And when you're talking about that last 10 minutes, there's nobody goes in the solo run for Dublin in the first minute. Never mind the last 10 minutes. They're just really good athletes, really good decision makers. They're all playing for the one thing. They're used to winning. They're used to winning down the stretch. And I think, for Mayo, I disagree with you on the point that Tyrone are best. I don't think Tyrone are best set to beat Dublin, because I think Dublin pick apart Tyrone's system easily enough with their decision making and their coolness. You saw what Cork did in the first half against Tyrone. They didn't go into contact. They didn't fall for any messing. They kept the ball in hand. They kept it out of hassle. They got their strike runners on the go. And it's why Dublin really have had no real issue with Tyrone over the last number of years. So, I think Mayo have given Dublin the most issues in the last 3 or 4 years. And they do it because they put a lot into their matchups and they try and go toe-to-toe. And if you look at the game last week in Castlebar with all the systems, it was Mayo's matchups that won them the game. It was Mayo's, it was Mayo's big move was Paddy Durcan up on one of Donegal's most influential players, Ryan McHugh, and he outscored him 3 points, no score. He ran the show. He was bombing forward. And I think Mayo need a bit of that. I think, trying to find a system. Mayo aren't really a system team. They're all blazing guns. They go man to man. They go toe to toe with you and try and outgun you.
Okay, well we'll come back to the details of how you think that game's going to go, and we talk about the tactics of both teams a little bit later on. I want to move on because Wayne Rooney joined Derby this week. Obviously, it's a big move for him. He's coming back from Washington, and he's going to be a player coach, and it's an 18-month deal. So here's a player who Sven-Goran Eriksson said was the biggest football brain that he ever experienced. I think that might just be Sven trying to insert himself into the conversation. I can't help but think that's just Sven's ego talking there, because now we're talking about Sven. But what did you make of this? Because it's an interesting move for somebody who obviously does not need the cash.
Yeah, it is. And to be honest with you, I think it probably been straight. It probably boils down to the family not probably settling in DC, and he's got a youngster that's going into secondary school now. So I'd say getting home was probably, and he probably tried the American thing and he might have enjoyed it a bit. He played really well. He scored 23 goals. He had 12 assists. I think only 2 players were better than him. on the stats last season. He obviously had that way, the one he got the halfway line goal. He did the one where he sprinted back and got the sliding tackle and drove it up the pitch and crossed it in from 60 yards to set up the winning goal in the game. So he's had a really successful time. So it wasn't like he went over there and was a bust. So I think he probably feels there's a bit more in him to score goals. You might be right with Ericsson wanting to get himself in the conversation, Ger, but I honestly think that, sometimes we judge people by what they're like in interviews or if they're quieter or maybe stuff that they do in their private life would lead you to believe that they don't make good decisions. But a lot of these guys can be really sharp in a football sense. And a lot of these fellas can be really good, talking to guys one-on-one individually. So maybe he does want to go down the coaching route. And this is a perfect opportunity for him to tie in the boat, get the best out of himself as a player in the last 2 years of his career. Obviously learn off of, a Dutch great and Philip Kaku. So it's a good move for him. Lampard was in there last year. These players obviously deal well with a young manager with ideas, and I think with Kaku and Rooney in the background on that side of it will be huge, but also Rooney on the pitch will be massive for them. So I think it's a good move for Wayne, to be honest, and a one that if he does want to go into management and coaching, it might be a nice step for him.
Yeah, it is definitely a fairly humble beginning for him, but not the worst one that you can kind of imagine. The transfer window, let's move on, because we're talking about winners and losers in the transfer window. You're a Chelsea fan. David Luiz is going to Arsenal. Eoin has been telling us for the last 24 hours that Arsenal are winning the transfer window at the moment. John Duggan's making the case for Spurs. How do you feel Chelsea have actually done in this transfer window as a matter of interest before we get into the winners and losers?
Well, we couldn't do much in the transfer window, so I'm glad Tammy Abraham's back from Villa. I think he was really good last season. I watched a lot of Villa last year, and his movement and pace and athleticism is something that I think it's something that Chelsea can work on. I think Kovacic is a good signing from full-time from Real Madrid. I thought he was brilliant for us last year. The American lad Pulisic is going to be a good option. Yeah, he's going to be a good option too. I think he's playing really. I think he's going to be good for us. So for a crowd that couldn't do anything in the transfer window, I think we've done okay. Losing David Luiz is a bit of a loss, to be honest, if we go, because I think he had his best season last year in the Chelsea jersey. Sarri kind of went with him, and
Gary Cahill gone as well.
Yeah, Gary Cahill. Well, Gary Cahill was he's been gone really for us for the last season and a half. Really, he hasn't been a factor at Chelsea for the last season and a half. It was actually tough to watch a player like Gary Cahill for what he'd done for the club kind of sit there and rot on the bench under Sarri. I found it tough last year because I like Cahill and what he did for Chelsea. So, I'm glad he's got his move and he's able to play. But yeah, look, Arsenal obviously, if they get David Luiz, if he plays with the form and he did last year, because he's a ray of passing, he's a bit headless, and he'll make the odd mistake, but he's a footballer. He tries things, and we should embrace that as well. Like, the passes he pulls off. He'll have Tierney and Bellerin bombing up both wings. Arsenal have done well in the transfer window, and a few clubs haven't done much. So it's Arsenal are probably the winners if they can make these deals today and get them over the line.
Yeah, I actually think despite the fact they've had the transfer embargo, that by bringing those players back in from loan when they're ready to, Chelsea have also had a really good transfer window. Somebody said that it's worth about 200 million, the talent that they've managed to bring back into the club who weren't at there, and they've got rid of a bunch of players too. So I don't know. I wonder, are you feeling confident about how the Lampard era is going to start? Do you think a top four place is a potential?
Yeah, I did something for the Star newspaper there yesterday, and I picked Chelsea to be in the top four. I think they'll be good under Lampard. I hope he'll get a bit of time. I'm pretty sure that he's done his best to negotiate that. But as we know, Mr. Abramovich is cold. But Lampard has been a serious servant and has given Abramovich a huge amount of joy. So he's going to have more leeway probably than anybody else has had before. And I think the fact that they're banned in the transfer window, he'll just let him at it. And Lampard worked really well with a lot of young players in Derby last year. And them few fellas getting back, the talent we've brought back in is exciting for us. And, the fact that there's no real pressure. Chelsea often start the season with a huge amount of pressure because they've bought big in the transfer window. And Whereas this year we really don't. We can go about our business, and look, the Premiership is always, it's a week away, it's a few days away, it's hugely exciting.
24 hours. Okay, let's move on. I want to talk about GA managers on the move. Obviously, there are a bunch of very interesting jobs up for grabs at the minute. Mccarthy to Monaghan is one of the big rumours that was doing the rounds in the last 24 hours. Jack O'Connor to Kildare is the other one, and then Paul Galvin has joined Wexford already. There was a buzz around the club championship matches. Galvin was at a game. We talked to Anthony Masterson yesterday. He said that there was just a sense that Galvin was watching them, which is exactly the type of box office that a county like Wexford needs. How good a manager do you think Paul Galvin's going to be?
I think he'll do a really good job with Wexford. They're starting off a very low base, but Paul will have them. Paul will have them playing. He played with Fenwick all his life. They grew up. I've gone out there for a few county league games. It's a tough, intimidating place to go, and they're picking from a really small bunch, but they really play together. They really work for each other. They always have each other's back. You don't want to get in a row out in Fenwick, Ger, because you want the wing mirrors up all around you. They're really close-knit bunch, and I think Paul will have them playing really much together for themselves. He'll certainly have ideas, and he'll certainly have an ethos in the way he plays. But as you said, look, he's already galvanised the county. Everybody will want to play for Wexford next year because there'll be a bit of a razzmatazz around it, and I'm sure guys will want to play for a guy as intense as a guy who thinks the way he does about the game. He's very thoughtful. He's big in body language. How fellas carry themselves. So it's only good for Wexford and Paul, really, because there can't be much pressure on anybody in this situation. Like, Wexford are well down in Division 4 last year, so he's got a lot to work on. He's got a lot to do, and it could take a bit of time, but he will get them playing for each other, and he will get them fighting for each other, that's for sure.
It'll be an adventure. What about Jack O'Connor at Kildare? Obviously, he doesn't have the same depth of talent that he had when he was manager of Kerry with you guys.
Yeah, no, but Jack will manage to get the best out of the players he has, and if he's got a good, young kind of backroom team there that's bringing plenty of new ideas and energy to him, Jack is a good manager with players, and maybe a few of the guys that weren't playing last year could come back under a manager like Jack. They know he's got a huge pedigree. They know he has had success. He's been involved in coaching, I'd say basically since near the end of his playing career. I'd say he was a bit like Wayne Rooney. I'd say when he was in Drummond, when he was being the player coach down there, it was all the way that he wanted to see the game go. So he'll get them going right. If that's the way Kildare want to go. I know there's a possible Anthony Rainbow and Glen Ryan ticket there as well, which and if you get the three of them together, if someone could take a backward step and get the three of those lads in together, it could be an unbelievable backroom team for Kildare. But definitely Jack would be a very good appointment for them, and McEntee as well going to Monaghan. They need as good as a job as Malachy O'Rourke did with them. I think this year kind of showed that maybe just that new voice is probably needed with that group, and they're going to lose a few great stalwarts. Probably the likes of Vinnie Corrie and a few others, Desi Mohan, who put in huge years and huge success in the Monaghan jersey, will probably go. So he'll be working with quite a young new team going forward if they take that job. So yeah, look, it's exciting. There'll be three managerial appointments. We know Paul has made, but the other two would be exciting as well.
Yeah, plenty more to come as well. Let's move on. Top six forwards. We've been kind of talking about this as the season has gone on. There's a surprise omission, I might suggest it. But look, it's early yet, and I think after the semi-finals, there's probably going to be a couple of big performances from individuals who might be able to get into this. But give us your top six forwards of the championship so far.
I'm worried now that you won our mission, because I sent a message yesterday. I sent another email last night, so I'm wondering which one you have. But I'll give you my top six forwards that we're going with. I have Matty Donnelly at 10, Conor Callahan at 11, Stephen O'Brien at 12, Clifford at 13, McShane at 14, and Paul Mannion at 15. So that's what I'm going with. One jersey.
No Sean O'Shea.
Yeah, it's to be honest, if I three Kerry fellas on, and Paul Gainey's going well as well, so he was in my mind as well, but there's no Mayo man there, so I don't know what that says, but on form, that forward line is ridiculous. And yeah, I think Conor Callaghan, he's either going to be inside at 14 or at 11. And to be honest, McShane is slightly going better than Sean O'Shea has for the duration of the season and who's on form. So I went with McShane, but there is certainly other guys there that could go into it. But I think that forward line would be pretty hard to stop at the moment, with Matty Donnelly being at 10, big, able to get around the place. Conor Callaghan and Stephen O'Brien at 11 and 12. And then the inside line of Clifford, McShane and Mannion is... I wouldn't fancy picking 6 backs to mark them, to be honest.
No, you'd need to be picking 8 backs to mark them, I think, with that talent. Speaking of which, right, let's because this kind of catapults us into the next conversation about what it is that these individuals are able to do. Like this Dublin forward line in particular, if you're the Mayo management team, what are you thinking about stopping that Dublin team scoring? What are you thinking about trying to win this game? How do you just go from last week's performance to the extra 25-30% that you really need to lift a tight game last week against Donegal to actually beating the Dubs in Croke Park?
Yeah, look, there's obviously a huge step needs to be taken by Mayo from beating a Donegal team that was missing 3 or 4 guys, and I know Mayo are missing guys as well, and I think who they get back from those guys that are missing is big the weekend. I think you'll see Chris Barrett with his centre of gravity and his tightness on Conor Callaghan just to try and ruffle his feathers. I think you'll see Brendan Harrison and Dean Rock. I think the matchups are important for Mayo, to be quite honest with you. I know you said earlier on that systems are more important, but I think for this Mayo team right now, they're so experienced. They know what it takes to win, and I think that they're going to get there. These matchups are very important for them. I think Keith Higgins will be on Paul Mannion. Lee Keegan will be on Kilkenny. He'll follow him around the place and try and get him going on the back foot and try and get going forward so much that, if Kilkenny is getting ball, he's actually getting it back in his own half back line and he's not up driving across the 45, setting up attacks. And to be honest, I play Paddy Durkin on Howard. I just put him at 5 and let him pick up Howard and let him try and influence himself on Brian Howard rather than, I know the suggestions that he might go up and do what he did with McHugh and go up and Jack McCaffrey, but I just think Jack McCaffrey, is a guy that his pace is just so raw that he's just hard to stop in a way, and I don't care who's on him. And I think, to be honest, I just put Kevin McLaughlin out there and I try and get McLaughlin to get on a lot of ball to keep McCaffrey busy, maybe to keep him from bombing forward a bit. But the big thing will be who has the ball. And I hope Mayo come with a really good press the weekend. That's if they have any chance of beating Dublin. They have to come with a high press. They've worked on it. I'm sure they've got different variations of it, but they're going to have to be excessive with how they use it and when they use it at time. Anytime there's an injury up that side of the pitch or the ball is dead, I'd be getting in the press, any free, any 45, get bodies up in the press, because if they let this Dublin team have the ball and come up the pitch, I just think it's going to be a tough day for them. But if they start in the press and they get their matchups right, and Doherty out now, I think they have to go with, if Diarmuid O'Connor is fit and he's training and he's back in the panel, and if he's good enough to be in the panel, I think you just go with him and you just start him. I know he's been out for 8 weeks.
Yeah, but get as much as you can out of him until he...
Get it. But to be honest with you, he's had an injured wrist, so the one thing you can do when you have an injured wrist is run. And, I've been out with collarbones and wrists and elbows before, and, it's a nightmare because you prefer to be training with the lads or on the outside looking in, getting your hole open.
Okay, fair enough. Well put. 47 minutes past 8 this morning. I want to just ask you about that though. Say all those matchups that you've talked about are great and they work out for Mayo, and then suddenly you've got Fenton rampaging forward and you've got McCarthy rampaging forward, and what's the value of the matchup versus the system that you need to be able to stop Dublin doing what they're going to do to you anyway?
Well, I think Mayo are the best tackling forward line. Themselves in Dublin are the 2 best tackling forward lines in the country, and have been over the last 2 years. And I think Mayo's forwards know how to tackle. I think the work they've done with Tony Buckley, showing teams down the sideline, their system mightn't be as obvious to everybody, but the way I see them tackling, and I see Killian O'Connor, he'll chase somebody down from the side on. He'll keep him going down the wing, and what that allows the opposite side to drop back in to create help. They don't really have you know, they might play a sweeper against teams that drop a man back against them, but, you know, their matchups are so important for Mayo is because I think Mayo's forward line will always hold up and tackle, and that's why I think they need to start with Diarmuid O'Connor or a Matty Ruane at centre forward that'll be able to go with James McCarthy, that'll be able to track him. You've got McLaughlin and McCaffrey.
I had one last crazy idea. Is there any point in starting O'Shea at full forward? If you've got Matthew Ruane back and you've got Seamus O'Shea back, is there any point in sticking Aidan O'Shea in full forward and just going, everybody for the last year and a half has been saying you've got a weakness under the high ball in the full back line. We're going to test that today, lads. We're going to see just exactly whether or not you do have a weakness in our full back line.
You know what? Aidan would do damage in there. But it's just something I don't see them going with, to be honest. He hasn't been there all year. I think he's been a class around the middle of the field. If I was Dublin, I'd put Fenton on Aidan O'Shea and I'd try and get Fenton to get off the half-forward line as much as I could and just keep Aidan O'Shea going backwards. And, I'd worry for Mayo because I think Dublin will do that the next day. I would be saying, if I was a Mayo manager, I'd be telling Aidan O'Shea, go out and get on Macaulay or whoever else they've out there and let Seamus O'Shea try and spoil Fenton for as long as possible. But I think they'll put Johnny Cooper on Killian O'Connor because they'll go toe-to-toe and they'll be arguing and they'll be like two billy goats going at each other so much. So that could take Killian out of their game, which they'd be delighted with. Yeah. They'll probably put Davy Byrne over on James Carr. And, James McCarthy is going to be there. And I think you need a Diarmuid O'Connor there that will keep James McCarthy honest and have to worry about defending as well.
Okay, let's talk about the other big game. Obviously, it's a massive game from Kerry and Tyrone's perspective. If Tyrone don't make it back to an All-Ireland final, they'll feel like the year was failure. If Kerry do make it to an All-Ireland final, they'll feel like this young team is going to have a full opportunity, a full season to really grow into exactly what it means to be the inheritors of the last great Kerry team. In the papers today, Sean Cavan is saying that he feels it's a 2-point win for Tyrone because their physicality is the thing that is going to set them apart and give them an advantage over Kerry. How do you see this going? And if Kerry are going to win, how will they win this game?
I think they have to. I think they really have to be their decision making and their coolness on the ball and to not force it is huge the next day. To be honest, I think Kerry will be solid defensively. I think they'll keep guys back. I don't know will they go as much as they did in the league game because they didn't have much time to work on anything else, so they went with a kind of real defensive system. But you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if Peter Keane was holding that for these two knockout games, because I hope he's doing that because, how open they were against Meath and Donegal. I think if Tyrone see Kerry going mano a mano 2-on-2 inside the 45, I think Mickey Hart will be running down to his selector to get Matty Donnelly in as quick as possible next to McShane and just let Kerry get everybody back and then counter-attack and kick it into the two boys. So I hope Kerry come with a more kind of rigid defensive approach and not to fall into the trap of bombing everybody forward and leaving yourselves very vulnerable on the counter-attack, because McShane is an unbelievable out for Tyrone. That's why their system works so well. They're able to get bodies back, get it up to the 45. He makes a great run. They give it to him. Then they're sludding and these guys coming off him. So they have their... But if you look at how Cork tackled Tyrone in the first 20 minutes of that game in Croke Park, and I sat behind the goals for it, they were really cool. They never went into contact. They played like Dublin do against Tyrone. They moved the ball around. They got strike runners coming. They had runners coming that had no interest in getting the ball. Cork halfbacks that were just running off the guy's shoulder that had the ball. But all he did is when they ran past the man, he took the two sweepers or the blanket with him and it allowed the man the ball to go on his run or give it to the next man that was coming. But, they drew a lot of frees off Tyrone. They looked so comfortable. They were up four points, I think, at half time. They were cruising until Tyrone came out in the second half with McShane inside and started to get a foothold, and Cork began to panic for the start of the second half. So I think, that's a huge thing for Kerry, that they be patient and that they pick off Tyrone and that they don't start forcing it into Gainey and forcing it into David Clifford, and Stephen O'Brien doesn't try and take on five fellas like he's been doing so well all year, because that's grand against one-on-one teams. But if you start going blindly running against Tyrone, you're going to find yourself running into bodies and they'll turn you over. So they have to be very slick with the ball, Kerry do the next day, and they have to bring the edge. There's no point in Tyrone being, they're just stronger and more physical. These Kerry fellas are doing all the gym work the same as everybody else. age has nothing to do with gym work anyway. It's all about attitude. It's all about how you approach it. They'll have to be on the very, very limit of the aggressive side of their game, Kerry, the next day. At the back, they need to be at it. They need to be at it from the throw-in. They need to set down the marker like they did to Mayo and Killarney. There's a big Kerry crowd travelling the next day. Everybody I talked to is going to the game. Flags are up around the town. There's flags on cars. There's a big buzz around the place. And Kerry are going to need, this Kerry team will come and hopefully give a big performance. Yeah. They are inexperienced. They are a young group. But look, it's a huge chance for them to get into an All-Ireland final.
Yeah. It's prediction time. Who's going to win Dublin Mayo?
Oh, it's you probably want one with an answer now because I might probably have to rambling on too much. Dublin will either win by 10 or Mayo will win by 1. I'm not. It's going to be a late decision, later in the week, full decision for me. But if I was pushed on it, and for the romantic side of it, and for everything, maybe Mayo by 1.
Whoa! All right. Shot clock prediction is Mayo by 1. That's what we're sticking you to. Fair enough.
Yeah, we'll go with it. And if Dublin win by 10, I can always throw that back at you next week. But we'll go with Mayo. Mayo pulling the biggest upset of the year out. I called Roscommon going to Castlebar winning and Cavan beating Monaghan, so I'm going to go with the underdog again.
Okay, and then Kerry Tyrone?
Kerry by a point.
Right, and then it is Man United Chelsea.
Come on, you Blues.
A Chelsea 2-1 win?
Chelsea win. I don't know the score. I won't go with a score, but Chelsea to win, get the Frank Lampard season off the flyer.
All right, good stuff, Kieran. Enjoy. Thanks very much.
Shot clock in the books. Thanks, Joe.
See you next week. That is this week's Shot Clock. I'm going for the Dubs. I'm going for, I don't know what. I think at this stage I probably have to start picking Tyrone to beat Kerry. And I also think that Chelsea are going to get something out of that game. It might not be a victory, but certainly they're not going to get beaten. Right, that is it for this week's Shot Clock. Up next with former Kilkenny star Michael Rice talking about the greatest minor hurlers over the last 25 years for our Electric Ireland Minor Jubilee 15. We're back straight after these.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
With over 15,000 coolers available to hire or buy, HSS Hire has a cooling solution for every workplace. Research shows staff are happier when their surroundings are comfortable. And with HSS Hire's range of fans, air conditioners and coolers, you can transform hot and stuffy into cool and calm. Drop into your local HSS. We've branches nationwide in Dublin, Waterford, Cork, Limerick and Galway, and get up to 50% off your first hire. HSS Hire, you're better equipped.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100. That's right. New Irish accounts can enjoy a risk-free first bet up to €100. So if your first bet loses, we'll refund your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In store, online, and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See Dunlewy.net.
Let's face it, the Irish summer has serious commitment issues. It's always late, disappears for weeks at a time, and consistently breaks its promises. But not us. At Electric Ireland, we're committed to giving you an 8.5% saving on your gas and electricity year after year after year after year. Visit electricireland.ie/join for the kind of commitment you deserve.
Estimated annual bill €1,736. Average consumption, urban 24-hour. Discounted unit rate. Standing charge, PSO levy and carbon tax. Residential, dual fuel, direct debit and online billing. Terms and conditions apply. See electricireland.ie/EAB. Rated 1st of April 2019. Subject to change.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Yeah, you're very welcome along to OTB AM. If you're listening to us as Sports Radio, then you're welcome along to us on Go Loud or else on offtheball.com. It is 8:57 this morning. All this summer on OTB AM, we're building our Electric Ireland Minor Jubilee 15. It's the greatest minor hurlers of the last 25 years in the Jubilee team. So far, we've got Donald Cusack in goals. Our full-back line is sensational. It's Tommy Walsh, Paddy Marr and Ronan Marr. Our half-back line is also damn good. Sean O'Halpine, Austin Gleeson and Joseph Cooney. This morning we're talking about the midfielders, and I'm delighted to say that former Kilkenny minor and obviously senior Michael Rice is joining us on the line to discuss. Michael, good morning to you. When were you a minor? What's your vintage in this?
Yeah, good morning, lads. One was my minor years. So I would have played with one of those lads on the team. Tommy Walsh was I was on one wing and 0-1, and he was on the other wing back 5-7. So And we lost the semi-final to Cork that year, who had the likes of Fraggy Murphy, Santo Halpine and John Gardner. And then in 02, we were lucky enough to go on and win the All-Ireland that year. And look, we had Mickey Cashin from Waterford over us, and he would have thought a lot of us in Kieran's College. And I remember the disappointment of us coming home after losing to Cork. I think Fraggy got 3-6 that day for Cork, which was phenomenal. Fortunately, we were on the receiving end of it. But I do remember the disappointment and making sure we kind of had a chat with Nicky afterwards, and brother Damien Brendan as well, and their selectors, and seeing what they stay on for the following year, because we had such an enjoyable year that year. And we also knew then the following year we had the likes of John Tennyson, Richie Power, John Fitzpatrick, John Dalton kind of coming into the setup as well. So we knew, obviously we didn't know how good they were all going to be, but we obviously knew they were good players at that age group as well, you know.
Yeah, Cha coming into the team as a minor. I wonder if he's going to be one of those kind of shoe-ins later on for the half forward, and certainly one of those players who ends up, I think he might only have 4 or 5 senior All-Ireland medals because he left the panel early enough in the cycle of things, but like it's not a bad career that Cha has as well. So I'm going to run through the actual contenders for midfielders that we have. William Marr, the tip captain in 96. He's the oldest of the guys that we have who are nominated. Ger Farragher, Galway 2000. Michael Rice, Kilkenny 2002. Michael Fennelly, Kilkenny 2003. Brendan Marr and Noel McGrath as midfielders from tip in 07. Davy Glennon from Galway in 2009, Pádraig Breheny from Galway in 2011, John McGrath from Tip in 2012, Luke Scanlon from Kilkenny in 2014, and Ger Brown from Tip in 2016. Michael Fennelly was a year after you, was he, Michael?
Yes, yeah, he was a year after me, and it's kind of it's funny enough at that age group. Michael wouldn't have been on the panel as far as I remember in 02, and we would have played against Ballyhale Shamrocks in the county final in 01, and Michael would have been corner back. So I mean, at that stage we were playing against Ballyhale, and I was all about Cha and making sure Cha didn't cause too much damage to us. And Michael would have been a solid player and probably not really on our radar as a lad in the club level, but I mean, he went straight into midfield in 03 in the minors, and then suddenly you went, wow, why were they playing him corner back? I suppose he was kind of tall and gangly at that stage, and he hadn't filled out. As we all saw, he did fill out and became an absolute giant for Kilkenny over the years in senior. But even at that 03, you could see he was a driving force for that 03 minor winning team. And further again, actually, the following year he went back corner back in the under-21s with Kilkenny, and then he was back out midfield again. So he had a kind of a jumping relationship with midfield at that time. But yeah, when he was midfield, you could see he had serious attributes, and as he filled out further into the senior level, he was obviously an absolute monster around midfield.
Yeah, not the prototype cornerback, it turns out. What about William Marr? I don't know too much about him, but apparently he had a massive reputation around that time.
He did, and when I went into St. Kieran's College in Kilkenny as a first year, he was the standout player, I suppose. There was Sheahan would have been still there, Henry, but I mean, I think Willie would have been in 5th year when I went in first year, and he was kind of the role model for everyone in the school in a way. Kind of like the perfect lad. He would have been boarding in Kieran's at that time, and I mean, you would have known. It's not often that you say this, but you would have been looking up to a tip man as a Kilkenny man at that stage, and he would have captained the minors that year, and that would have been very noticeable around Kieran's College that we did have the captain of a minor winning team in the school, but he happened to be from Tipperary. And also then for the school team as well, he was always considered a massive leader for the team, and would have won All-Ireland in 96 as well with St. Kieran's College that year as well. So I mean, at that time, he was certainly a big deal, yeah.
Ger Farragher is the other one that kind of strikes me from this list. Certainly somebody who, like, it was that those Galway teams would frequently have one player who would do all the scorings. They'd take the frees, but they'd also be such a great athlete that they'd be able to dominate games. And if memory serves, Ger Farragher was one of those who could kind of run games but also rack up giant scores.
Yeah, it was incredible, because I suppose I'd describe him as kind of the Roy of the Rovers figures. Like you said, he when you said it struck you, it struck fear into us, to be honest, because he was so good on the ball. He had such a great touch. He was so skillful. He had a brilliant strike. His free taking was phenomenal, and back then, you're talking 99, 0001, he was striking the ball longer than any of us minors at that stage, and then the sideline cuts were the one that really probably made him stand out that bit more. I don't think I knew anyone who could strike a sideline over the bar at that stage, but he was able to do it consistently, and you were probably thinking he was going to come away with maybe 2-3 points from sidelines as well as 65s and frees. So he was that kind of Ryan Rovers, and he'd be able to travel around the field at ease. And I always kind of remember that just beautiful strike off his left-hand side, especially. And I think really I came up against him later at senior level, and even then I suppose I would have been I think it was 2010, he was going particularly well for Galway in the middle of the field, and even the idea, I would have known him from minor. So regardless of what he was doing in 2010, I was still kind of that idea that I had to be 100% on my game for this lad, or he could maybe pop 4 or 5 points off me, and that was his ability throughout his career really. And as a minor, he stood out for us. We would have been speaking about him at that time, and we would have considered him the best minor in the country at the time as well, over maybe a couple of years, as opposed to just one.
Because that's exactly what we're looking for here. It's not just about the amazing careers that they go on to have at senior level. It's more about just it's a jubilee team for minors. So the other one that I just wanted to briefly talk about, we phoned up some people to kind of get their impressions, and James Woodlock was talking about Noel McGrath, saying the calmness that he had and the read of his game was class. Now, there's probably a case that Noel McGrath could have, if we were, doing what the All-Stars do, we could put him anywhere from 8 to 15 on the pitch and nobody would complain. But I think he played a fair bit of his minor at midfield, so that's why we're talking about him here. But certainly you can see how somebody like Noel McGrath, minor, where there would just be time on the ball in a match where nobody else has time in the ball, but somebody like Noel McGrath kind of just finds pockets of space to look up and pick a pass or score from the halfway line.
Yeah, and that doesn't seem to have changed really. If you're looking at probably the last few matches as well, at the moment in senior level, that's what he seems to have continued to do, and he always seemed to have that time on the ball at such a young age. I think most of us at minor were probably, you're talking about getting the ball and moving it on, and you're not trying to do anything. First of all, you're probably not trying to make mistakes, and then after that you're trying to play as well as possible. But Noel always had that calmness about him, and like you said, I mean, if someone that maybe in his first few years when he moved on to senior had said that he was a midfielder, you'd be like, oh really, I thought he was a natural corner forward or a natural centre forward, or so I mean, that is the ability of the chap, that he could play anywhere, and midfield suits him so well now, and did suit him then as well, because he has the brain to put himself in pockets of space that no one else will really think of, and that's the reality of it. He's able to read the game so well. He's able to move kind of effortlessly into space, and that's what makes him such a great player now, but also at minor level, and he just continued it on all the way through his career. Yeah,
Michael, you obviously go on to have an amazing senior career as well, heavily involved in the game still to this day. When you look back on your minor career, what role do you think it played, and how do you feel about it now? Is it something that you kind of look back with these incredible fond memories of the time itself, or was it a lot of pressure for a 17 and an 18-year-old to be kind of in those games, or did you feel that pressure at the time at all?
No, I think the first part, really incredibly fond memories, is the overriding feeling. There was a certain amount of pressure. I remember in 01, I think I was picked wing back for my first time ever to play wing back, and I would have played midfield, I would have played centre back, and then when you're picked wing back, you're kind of... I remember before that first match, and it was a Wexford Leinster final, I was a little panicked that God, they're picking me in a new position. But I think when you look back, you go, well, sure, look, it's very similar to playing in centre back, very similar to playing wing forward or midfield, that you kind of get over that to a certain extent once you play there and settle down. And again, I suppose the fondness of the memories come from winning as well, that we went on to win in All-Ireland in 2002, and from an experience point of view then, that I had got the experience of playing in Croke Park on big days. I certainly loved it, and I got a taste for it, and I wanted more and more of it. So I think that's kind of fed into what I wanted. I always wanted to play for Kilkenny, but when you're maybe, like say, a first year in school, your one goal is to maybe play minor for Kilkenny and get a trial, and then move on to the next stage and get onto the panel and get on the team. So that was a huge stepping stone for me, and it gave me a confidence going forward that I was able to perform at that level, and then even it kind of gives you a confidence going in the under-21s next year that you're not waiting until your second year under 21. You're kind of saying, well, listen, I did it for 2 years at minor. Maybe I'll be able to slip in here into the team straight away at under 21, and that's how it transpired for a few of us as well.
Yeah.
So it is a springboard. Look, we all know at this stage it's not a necessity for you to go on and play senior for your county, but I certainly felt it gave me a great boost, both of confidence and to get used to playing on the bigger days.
All right, Michael, great stuff. Thanks a million for joining us and sharing all that with us this morning. Great to have you with us again. Cheers.
No bother. Thanks, lad.
It's Michael Rice. Always great to talk to him. And we'll be opening that poll for the Electric Ireland Minor Hurling Jubilee team from 93 to 2018. I suspect that the competition is only going to get increasingly fierce from this point forward. But big shout there from Michael Rice for Ger Farher in one of those two midfield positions, and we'll be announcing those winners on the show over the next while. A reminder, of course, 2 games in the Electric Ireland Minor Football Championships this weekend. Both games are live on TG Car. It's Mayo against Cork in Croke Park at 3 o'clock, and that's the Saturday game, and then the Sunday game is Kerry against Galway in Croke Park at 1:30. Both those games live on TG Car. Hashtag GA, this is major. Now, we're back talking football with Phil Egan, transfers with Tom Malone, Keith Andrews and Fulham's latest signing, Harry Arter, in the next hour on OTB AM. It's 10 minutes past 9 this morning. We're live for 17 full consecutive successive hours on Off The Ball until midnight today. You can listen live on offtheball.com or on the Go Loud app. If you don't have the Go Loud app yet, it's a very, very nice piece of kit, and it's the best place to really listen to all your Off The Ball podcasts, and also to OTB Sports Radio. You can also watch us all day on youtube.com/Off The Ball. Pat Nevin was on the football show for the first time of the new season with Joe last night. Here he is talking about the rumours that David Luiz was set to join Arsenal, something which has happened.
Yeah, well, the noises that are coming out, obviously, about Koscielny as well. And it's, if he feels as if the new management don't rate him, I mean, he's been there before. So he won't want to sit in the, on the bench at any point again. He's done that before for periods of time, and he feels he's far too good a player for that. I would agree with him. He's far too good a player to do that. It may well be one of those things where there's been a little bust up, which happens in training all the time. I really don't know, but I have heard lots of rumours coming out, but I haven't heard anything coming from within the club. It wouldn't utterly shock me. I would say that. It wouldn't utterly shock me that there had been a little bit of a breakdown, either with Jody or Frank, with David, because very, very strong characters. And one of the big things that any manager coming in, you don't necessarily pick a fight, but see if one happens, you win it.
Yeah, okay.
You go and win it. You just go and win it.
Yeah.
And it almost doesn't matter who it was. I'd be quite gutted because I'm completely, I admit that I have one or two biases in my life, and one of them is David Luiz. And I'd be gutted if he left Chelsea.
Yeah, there you go. It's Pat Nevin. A point that I stole earlier on, but I'm glad that I credited him because we just played the clip that showed where I got it.
Yeah, it's a disappointing moment. At least it's not less the Premier League. You want to hold on to the best pieces of hair in the Premier League as much as possible. I mean, when Keith Andrews retired, losing his hair from the Premier League was a really, really disappointing thing. All
right, speaking of which, that's the best segue you've ever had. Keith Andrews, good morning to you.
I was going to slick that on. I like it. And
No
you growing
problem.
a beard on the subject of hair, or trying to grow a beard?
That's highly insulting.
Chris Sutton said his hair was very good now yesterday, Keith, so,
All entitled to our opinions, yeah.
Hey, did you ever move on transfer deadline day?
I did, yeah. I moved to West Brom, so it was a bit of a drawn-out saga. It was the January window. Took the whole month. I came back from Ipswich from a loan move. There was all sorts of shenanigans going on at Blackburn when the Venke family took over, so I had to be very, very patient throughout the month of January, and then it got to the last day, and I didn't know where I was going. I came into Blackburn at 9 o'clock in the morning. The window closed. I think it was 11 o'clock at that time. And as of 5, 6 o'clock, I was still in the canteen, not knowing exactly what club I'd be going to. There was a few interested, a couple of loans, West Brom, Wigan, Stoke then eventually came in. And my choice was to go to West Brom, but it needed that domino effect that we keep on hearing about in the transfer market. And unfortunately, it happened in time. I got in the car, drove down, and unfortunately got done about 10 o'clock that night.
And is the process that you talk to all three clubs, like at that stage, Blackburn are kind of like, look, you're definitely leaving, you can talk to whoever you want, and you kind of have the personal terms agreed, it's just at that point making sure the clubs, how is there a sequence of things that have to happen? The clubs have to agree a fee before you're allowed to talk about transfer, about personal terms. How does that work?
Yeah, well, in my scenario, it was very much that they needed to get a player out and maybe in one or two of those clubs I possibly wasn't the first choice player that they wanted to be, so they may have got let down in one. So the conversations would have happened between the agent, obviously, and those respective clubs, not me personally.
Right.
In terms of that deal, I was available to leave on a free. They wanted me off the wage bill so they could bring someone in. So that was the domino effect for them. But then it was just a game of patience, really. So fortunately, it worked out, and I got myself to West Brom, and I enjoyed it there.
Is it anxious that day? Is it like one of the most anxious experiences you can have, or are you fairly resigned? Like, look, worst case scenario, I have a contract here, everything's going to be fine.
Well, it was very anxious. I was very nervous, and I was at certain stages throughout that day. I was banging on doors and saying, "You need to let me out. I need to just sign it." So I could leave even after that, because that was the year of the Euros in 2012. I'd had a good half season at Ipswich where I was scoring goals. I got back fit after a serious groin injury that nobody could really determine exactly what it was. So got back playing, had my fitness back. Then it was important I kicked on and stayed in the reckoning to go into the Euros in decent shape. And I felt West Brom first choice, second choice would have been Wigan, but ultimately, whatever that came around, I would have just had to have taken, because I wasn't going to feature at Blackburn.
Yeah. Keith, obviously we talk a good bit about the championship whenever we're chatting, and it kind of just thinking about it yesterday, like obviously the deadline closes there today as well. The championship, like as a Villa fan over the last couple of years, you kind of fully come to appreciate just how incredible a league it is. Everything goes down to the last couple of seconds of the playoffs. The relegation battle is one of the most cutthroat things in world sport, because like that's kind of the precipice for a lot of these big clubs who don't really want to be in the championship at all, and next thing they're in League One, and then the rewards are like winning the lottery for different teams as well. So it's an amazing league. I haven't been paying enough attention over the off season to know kind of who the winners and losers have been in the off season so far, but like Derby signing Wayne Rooney, adding another little level of intrigue to the whole thing. Has there been any overarching stories or anybody who's been a clear winner in the off season?
I think off season it's been quite a bit of a slow burner in terms of recruitment, in terms of getting going. Lots of managerial changes. 10 new managers started on the opening day, which is again just ridiculous. It just shows the average tenure of managers at that level. But you have to say, in certain instances, like Derby being a prime example, the owner there gets quite a bit of stick, Mel Morris. But in the last two, he hasn't had any choice about it. The managers have opted to leave, and I think he's recruited a very good manager in Philip Cocu, and even that, you know, the name, it's a real coup, I feel, for Derby to get someone in like Shay Gibbons, obviously still part of the coaching staff there. So I was at their game the other night, played very, very well. You mentioned Wayne Rooney. What type of impact will he have? I still think he'll have a very good impact on the pitch, regardless of the coaching aspect that everybody keeps on talking about. But I think it's a very level playing field this year, probably even more so than last year, barring Leeds, if they get one or two in today, because they lost Kamara Roof to Anderlecht in the last couple of days, and I feel that's a massive blow. Bamford played the other day and played quite well. Whether he'll be able to sustain that for 40, 50 games as the only real striker, I would say is unlikely.
What about Leeds? Are they going to be able to improve from last season? Is it a different prospect second season round with Bielsa?
Traditionally, second season doesn't go very well for Marcelo Bielsa, but I would say it would be the opposite this year, because he's had that amount of time with this set group of players. There hasn't been many changes. I mentioned Kamara Roof, Pontus Jansson went to Brentford. He's brought in Ben White to replace Pontus Jansson from Brighton, who had an unbelievable game in his first game last weekend against Bristol City. So they went to Bristol City and they basically toyed with them. They were outclassed in every single department. There was a stroll in the park, and it was the Leeds, the best of Leeds that we've seen last year. So I would anticipate they can make that next step and get over the line this year, because the work he's done with that group of players has been phenomenal. They're a joy to watch.
Yeah, they did. I mean, you did accurately predict that they were going to burn out towards the end of the season. It was exactly what happened. Because it's the second season and all the players know exactly what's happening, you've had the full pre-season and you're building on top of last season, does that mean that shouldn't happen this year?
I think so, and then him as well, having a year experience within the championship, maybe he needs to back off at certain stages. He likes to work with a small squad, Jer, so he doesn't like to have issues within the dressing room where somebody doesn't feel quite part of the journey that they're going on, and that's a balancing act, isn't it? So I just think all those things come into the equation. I like what he does. I've been on record as saying that I felt for them last year, because it got to a stage where they got back into it. They had their lull, but after Christmas, they were, in terms of the form guide of the teams in the championship, they were 10th. So that tells its own story. They weren't clinical enough, And I thought on a few occasions in certain big games against Norwich, Sheffield United, Wigan at home, I thought the occasion got to them. I thought the journey that they were going on, the fans well and truly buy into up there. They are on Bielsa's bandwagon, and I think maybe the players maybe just got put off by that, and it got to them. But I would expect them to make that next step this year.
We want to talk a bit about the Premier League, Keith, and focus in on some of the Irish players. I think it's fair to say that most people's second team this season is going to be Sheffield United.
Yeah, look, I loved them last year on. I think you must have heard me going on about them, the way they played and the different style, and it was very refreshing. And I think that's what the Championship does bring. I think when you look at lower half of the Premier League, traditionally teams play a similar system. They look to maybe not get beat rather than go and try and win the game. I don't think that'll be the case, certainly in the first couple of months with Chris Wilder and Sheffield United. And you're right, the type of players that he already had in the building, and the Stevens, obviously McGoldrick, John Egan, and he's added to that with Callum Robinson, hasn't he? So Callum Robinson, I think, could be a big player for them this year. So yeah, I'm with you. I was due to be at that game on Saturday, but ironically, I've been changed onto the Leeds game. So.
We were talking to Conor Hourihane a little bit earlier on in terms of how you have to stay true to yourself to a point when you get promoted to the Premier League, especially when you get promoted playing such good football. But there has to be a practicality that comes into it. There has to be more of a robust style of play, I guess, is how a lot of these promoted teams will play. So how true to Sheffield United's style last season can Chris Wilder stay this season?
Well, all the talk is that he's going to continue it on. It's a back three. It's not a back five when it gets in full flow. Of course, at times they will have to drop in and soak up pressure against teams that are able to contain them and able to pin them in. But I think knowing him the way I do, which I have to confess isn't greatly, but when I have come across him, I really, really like him as a fella. I think he's as honest as the day is long. And this team's perform in that type of manner. So I would anticipate them having a real good go off probably the teams from 7th to 8th down in the Premier League. And I think at times against the top teams, they will pick and choose when they have a real go. They won't be the type of team to just sit back on the edge of the box, soak up pressure and try and hit teams on the counter-attack. I think they'll be refreshing for people that haven't seen them in the last couple of years.
I was making the point after we talked with Conor Hourihane that his career trajectory isn't a million miles away from yours, that there's a period where you come from the lower divisions and then eventually you make it into the Premier League, and when you get there you're ready for it because you've had to battle every step of the way, and there's been various stages where it looked like you might not make it. So when you do make it, you're going to enjoy it and you're going to make the absolute most of it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Jerry. He's had to go backwards to go forwards, and every single step he's just taken it, I wouldn't say with ease, because even at the start of Aston Villa, after his move from Barnsley, it took him a little bit of time to maybe take in the whole surrounding of the enormity of Aston Villa, going from a club the size of Barnsley. And he's had to fight off a lot of potential players taking his place. And you're right, he's just gone up to the next step. And I would imagine, from bumping into him on a few occasions at games, at Ireland games, etc., he's an absolute diamond of a person. He's a thorough professional the way he approaches the game. I've got a lot of time for him, and I think he's proved in a green shirt over the last few months what an important player he'll be for us over the coming years. And if he can slot into Premier League life, and on paper in terms of the time on the ball that you get, he should be able to show that array of passes and set pieces. You only have to look at what he did last weekend in Villa's last pre-season game, what he's capable of. So yeah, I hope he has a big year, and I'm confident he can.
There's been a couple of threads during the transfer window as well from an Irish perspective, James McCarthy being the big one. What do you make of that move? Is it going to be a renaissance in McCarthy's career?
I sincerely hope so, and he's had a tough time, hasn't he, obviously, with the injury that he's had to go through, and then since he's been back fit and training, he just hasn't had a sniff. He hasn't been Marco Silva's cup of tea, clearly. He hasn't been able to gate crash any type of Premier League action. So look, I think on the face of it, he should be a good sign for Palace. They have a decent midfield, but I think when you look at what they've got in there, Milivojevic, I think he could potentially slot in alongside him. I've worked under Roy Hodgson. He likes defence-minded midfielders. He likes to play in a structured way. And if I look at what he could do for James's game, I think it could be very good. But ultimately, James needs to just get on the pitch, get playing minutes, build up that fitness, because if he does, and again, he'll be a big player for us coming into the autumn.
His former teammate, Seamus Coleman, his position could be under threat after the Sidibe move to Everton this season. We've seen a lot of Sidibe. This Monaghan team obviously is something that's caught our attention quite a bit over here as well over the last couple of seasons. I think the angle here and the question is he good enough to actually displace Seamus Coleman permanently from their right back position? Because I'm not convinced.
Yeah, only time will tell, obviously, on that one, and in terms of what type of move it was, where Sidibe's at. I thought Seamus, again, as soon as he got back going in terms of his fitness levels, building it back up. Let's not forget he's got a pre-season under his belt now. I don't think any of us can really gauge the enormity of the injury that he went through and how hard it is to get back up to full tilt. I thought he's done magnificent, and I think when you factor in what he's had to deal with Ireland and the competition with Matt Doherty, that whole saga that constantly goes on. Seamus is a leader. He's our captain. He's Everton's captain now. I fully anticipate him to start on Saturday.
Owen makes the point that Sheffield United are going to be a lot of Irish fans' second team, but there's a possibility that Bournemouth might elbow them out of the way because not only Mark Travers, the goalkeeper who burst on the scene at the end of last year, but apparently Gavin Kilkenny, who I don't know that much about, but I guess you guys know a fair bit about him, has burst on the scene in pre-season and ran the game from the right wing against Leon the other night, scored a goal, made another one, and might be in the frame for some first team appearances this season.
Yeah, he's a player we had under 18 level when I was involved a couple of years back, and he's gone off to England, forged his apprenticeship at Bournemouth. Very talented player, technical player. Can play on either wing, any of those three positions. If it's a 4-2-3-1 behind the striker, and you're right, and that's the beauty of pre-season, Jerry. It's the fact that young players get an opportunity, and then it's up to them. If they can shine in an environment where they are surrounded by first-team players, because the first-team players can't play every game in pre-season, so that is your opportunity to really shine. Because when you go back to 23's football, 21's football in Bournemouth's case, they're surrounded by similar type players. So I think it's harder to actually shine. So he's clearly caught some headlines. I've seen some of that action from that game, and I'm with you. I thought he was absolutely magnificent. Seems to have grasped his opportunity. Harry Wilson signing may well be a bit of a stumbling block because he obviously will play on that right hand side if he's up to speed. But it'd be great to see Gavin get in and around the first team, get some action, and then even get a long move potentially.
Stay with us, Keith, because we're crossing over to agent Stephen Hunt, who's got the hottest phone in world football today. Stephen, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. How you doing? Hope you're well.
Are you wheeling and dealing? Is this one of your favourite days of the year?
Don't be start talking rubbish now. They're going to talk to me, talk constructively with Eoin. All that kind of rubbish.
Hey, perfect. Good man, Hunty.
Things like, listen, it is what it is. It's a busy day, so enjoying it. You keep your head down and you try and get a couple of deals done. And if it's the right move for the player, then let it roll on.
And how active do you need to be? Is it are you hoping that clubs are coming to you? Are you constantly making sure that managers know that certain players...
Yeah, well, listen, I received a call last night at 10 to 12, and right now I'm in Dublin Airport on the way over to the UK to see if a deal can happen. So it's one of them where it might not, but you got to be on the spot to make sure it can happen.
So Keith is on the other line there, and he was talking about back in his day that the window didn't shut until 11 o'clock. The earlier shut of the window is supposed to inspire the teams to get business done, but that's not really how it works, is it? Would you prefer if the window didn't actually shut until 11 o'clock tonight to just give you that extra couple of hours?
11 o'clock would have been ideal for everyone. I think 5 o'clock makes it an office day's work, and as you can imagine, it's been going on for the last couple of hours, so it's a game of poker, I suppose, and Monday everyone put down their first card, and then everyone's laying down cards as you speak and seeing what falls into place and see who has the best hand at the end of the day.
You're obviously not entirely brand new to this, but there hasn't been years and years of transfer deadline day for you. Is it actually something that you can kind of enjoy when it's over? Like tomorrow, assuming that the move happens.
Yeah, of course. Listen, I still got some young players that can go to League 1 and League 2 after this window, so it's important for them too that you take that serious. But today is more about the Championship, Premiership and what moves and who goes where. I'm sure there'll be some movement, especially if you're a striker today. You must be loving it because you'll have 2 or 3 options to weigh up and go from there.
Well, listen, we know you're busy. Thanks very much for taking the call. We don't want to prevent you from taking another one, so hopefully we'll check in with you a little bit later on. That's Stephen Hunt giving us a little flavour of what's happening in his world at the moment. I guess, Keith, you're kind of glad that you're out of all that part of it, are you?
It is stressful, Jay. You can see Stephen there is obviously on his way over, and whatever player is, he's going to be a nervous wreck, you know, in terms of not knowing where he's going to be tomorrow. You don't know what dressing room you're going to be in tomorrow, which is surreal, isn't it? And the knock-on effects of that, of course, are if you're married, if you've got kids, schools, etc. These are the type of factors. And at the top level, look, it doesn't really matter because the finance are at stake. When you go down the levels and you factor in those type of issues in terms of moving house, rent, finding somewhere, you know, these are very, very stressful scenarios. So, yeah, I think the extra few hours might have helped them out today.
We have an Arsenal fan in Eoin and a Spurs fan in John Duggan, and they've been debating back and forth all morning about who actually has won the transfer window so far. Owen's making a good case that Arsenal, particularly considering at the start of the transfer window, they went very public with, we've got no money, we've only got 40 million, and somehow they've managed to spend way more than that and actually fixed legitimate holes in their team. It's kind of the opposite of how an Arsene Wenger transfer window would have gone.
Yeah, I agree. I've been impressed with what they've managed to get in the building, and they must have structured those deals in a way where they're able to pay them off over the term of the individual contract. So it has been impressive. Pepe is a very, very good player, and I think he will flourish under Unai Emery. Defensively, they're looking to sort it. Obviously, David Luiz looks like he's going to go there. Kieran Donaghy looks like that's going to get done as well. So that'll very much sort out the back four and help that situation. Koscielny gone is a massive blow. That obviously was a breakdown in relationships. He clearly felt he needed to go back to France or leave Arsenal. But I have to say, I've been impressed with what Spurs have been able to do, and I don't think they're finished yet. It looks like Sessegnon today, Lo Celso as well, maybe, and added that to Dembele. I think they'll have a good window as well, and I would have to say I fancy Spurs to finish ahead of them.
Yeah.
Sorry, no.
Like when I don't actually have any problem with that. I think that is definitely going to happen. I think John was actually being a bit too generous earlier on. But like when you actually factor it all into the mix and you take Spurs as a single kind of entity, like they've clearly had a better transfer window than Liverpool. Are Spurs now looking at top two?
Yeah, do you know what? I was just reading up a little bit about them. Obviously, Troy Parrott's been involved in pre-season, so I've been keeping more of an eye on them than maybe normally would. And I agree. I think when you look at the squad, and the fact that was lingering with me last night was Christian Eriksen. If he can stay with all those other players, then you're looking at a serious team. Obviously, if anything happens to Harry Kane, massive concern. What do they do? But they've shown at times Son can fill in there. Lucas Moura can fill in there. They wouldn't be able to do it for a long period of time. But I'm with you, Owen. I think the fact that Liverpool haven't, I know that they're making a lot of the signings that were injured last year, the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain. Naby Keita has had a year to find his feet. So I would anticipate a similar type of level from Liverpool. But I would expect Spurs with the journey that they went on with the Champions League, the belief, the fact that they haven't made signings for the last couple of years. Next of all, there's a few arriving into the building. I think that has to be the aim. We need to step up a level.
Any other young Irish lads, Keith, that we should be looking out for that you think might have an impact this season unexpectedly?
I think the attacking unit is obviously quite exciting, which a lot has been made of the younger type players with Adamida at Norwich, Troy Parrott obviously at Spurs, and Aaron Connolly at Brighton. It's just whether they get the minutes on the pitch. And sometimes when you're too close to that respective first team, it actually, you suffer because you're travelling up and down the country. You're with the first team all the time. You're travelling with them. It's great. But then you're not actually getting game time, or sometimes a long move away for half a season when you go and play 20-25 games can be more beneficial. Our captain for the 21s has obviously gone to Millwall, Jason Malumbi from Brighton for a season long, so that's going to be good for him, and again, hopefully he can get some minutes under his belt.
And then a final one for me, Keith, just in terms of any Irish players that, if you were their Stephen Hunt, if you were their agent, who would you actually be pushing them towards, or would you be pushing them towards the exit door? Because like you look through the list of Irish players in the Premier League, and like Nathan was in the studio a couple of weeks ago saying perhaps Robbie Brady should be considering a move, even if he has to step down a division.
I think it's difficult at times. You know, the agent can advise, obviously, and I would imagine in most cases they've got your best interests at heart. But if you're under contract to a club, for instance, a Robbie Brady, Sean Dyche ain't going to let him go anyway. They're finding it that hard to get players in because of the cost, because of the expense of what it costs these days to get players into the building with the strict wage budget that they have to play with. There's no way they would let a player of the ability of Robbie Brady leave. So, yeah, maybe on paper he might benefit from a fresh start, a different type of environment. But I can't see that happening. There's so many different kind of dynamics involved in getting that deal through that obviously the club have the final say.
Keith, great stuff. Good to talk to you again. Thanks a million, man.
Pleasure, lads. Take care.
Keith Andrews giving us some deadline day reaction and analysis. You're listening to OTB AM, OTB Sports Radio with you all day today for 17 hours. Best place to get us is on the Goal Out app or on offtheball.com. Now let's move on. I'm delighted to say we've got Republic of Ireland international Harry Arter on the line to talk to us about his own move. Harry, Fulham is, it seems like on paper, certainly the perfect place for you. They've got a grand tradition of playing football, and it looks like your strengths and Fulham's desire to play football are a perfect match, a match made in heaven.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping. I think they obviously had a disappointing season last year, but this season they've kept a good bulk of players together. The owner's very ambitious, and he's desperate to go up at the first attempt. So I'm delighted to be here, and hopefully I can play in the end goal.
Yeah, does it help or hinder the fact that your brother-in-law is the manager? It's like, if he drops you can't really complain too much, but you're kind of hoping that he's not going to drop you because he's your brother-in-law.
Do you know what? Scott's very professional, when it comes to his work, and obviously especially football. He's someone that, family and things like that has to be pushed to the side. I've played against him a couple of times, and it was just like playing against anyone else. So, that side of it, definitely won't be in his mind at all. He obviously rates me as a player and feels I can help the team. So, I can't see that being an issue.
Yeah, sorry, all joking aside, obviously a brilliant midfielder in his own right. Is that something that you've spoken to him about ever, like just kind of chatting about game and taking hints and tips? I mean, because obviously, look, you're a seasoned professional at this stage, and there's not a whole heap extra that you're going to be learning, but just little insights to kind of improve your own game.
Well, yeah, I'd say Scott's been, in my family since I was 5, so he's someone that I've grown up with and shared his successes with him, and his successes, at one point were, unbelievable from where I was at. I was watching him when he was captain in England, and I was playing for Woking in the conference. So he's someone that naturally I've always looked up to, and of course I feel you can always keep learning. I think his mental strength throughout his career is probably one of his greatest strengths. To stay at the top for as long as he did. It's something that obviously I want to try and emulate, definitely in the latter part of my career. So I always feel you can learn no matter how old you are and improve, and I definitely feel he'd be able to do that for me.
Was it always obvious to you that he was going to end up in management?
I think later on in his career, definitely. He, obviously every player takes a different route when it comes to the end of your career. But quite early on, he decided to do his coaching badges, and he worked with some great managers, which I think definitely influenced him. He had great respect for the people he worked for, and lucky enough, he worked under some great managers. So he definitely had some great influences when he was a player, and definitely he'll try and bring that into his own management career. But I think everyone knows, or anyone that knows Scott knows he was a hard-working, top professional, and I think, it was probably a natural progression for him going into management.
Harry, when you talk about never being too old to learn, what is it exactly that you're looking to work on? Is there a specific thing that you're looking to improve in?
Well, I think I'm going to have to get used to the way he wants his team to play. It's definitely going to be different to what I experienced last year for sure, and definitely a bit different to the way Bournemouth plays. So that in itself will definitely be a learning curve, and one that I'm really looking forward to. There's no real sort of specific things that I'm thinking in my head, this is what I need to get better at, but just, definitely just learning a different way of playing and making sure, I'm able to do everything he wants within the team, tactically and physically.
What is the style of play? How will Fulham approach the Championship? It's such a cutthroat league, but we did see that it was 3 footballing sides who eventually came through last year, and it was the footballing teams who were definitely at the forefront in the division as the season progressed. Yeah,
I definitely think the Championship has changed over the last probably 5 years or so.
Of course, there's still teams in there that, you know, battle and play long ball and, you know, the typical, you know, championship sort of style football that people might think of. But I think in recent years, you just say the teams that have gone up have definitely played a good brand of football. And I'm sure Scott will be no different. The way he ended the season at Fulham, he got some great results against some good teams, you know, playing some really good stuff. I think it would be important, especially for a team that got relegated, to make sure that you don't lose that fight and that hunger and, you know, realise when you're playing against teams, you know, who may not play as pretty football or as good football, that, you know, you need to have both sides to your game. And that's definitely something that, you know, he'll want from the team, and I'm sure we'll do.
And is it going to be a midfield four? Is it a diamond? Is it three in midfield? Do you know yet exactly what the expectation will be?
I think he wants to play in a free midfield. He played that. That's what obviously we've worked on since I've been there, and I think the team they played that against Barnsley on Saturday. So I think not many teams nowadays that don't really play with free in midfield, you know, to be totally honest with you. So I'm sure it'll be a free man midfield.
And that suits your game obviously as well.
Yeah, I'd say it was a learning curve going to Cardiff, because Bournemouth have probably been definitely in the Premier League, probably one of the only teams that play with two in midfield, and I had to learn, you know, different positions to take up when I was at Cardiff. And as I say, that's the whole learning part with coming to Fulham. It's, as I say, you can never be too old to learn new stuff, and I've worked on the last few days on certain positions that he wants me to pick up that definitely is different to the last two teams that I've been at. And it's all about the understanding and listening to what Scott and the coaching staff want, and making sure that I do it on the pitch.
Are you feeling confident about the season ahead? It's obviously a massive year from an Ireland perspective. Pardon me, from an Ireland perspective as well. Big carrot at the end of the 2019-2020 season.
Yeah, it's obviously that's the international wise. That's what everyone's aiming for. I think the disappointment missing out on the World Cup will definitely be in the lads' minds. That night after Denmark was, the result aside, was obviously so disappointing. But knowing what we've missed out on was, you know, a tough watch for that World Cup. So we definitely won't want that feeling again going into the Euros. I think we're in a really good place mentally with the squad and the results. I think they've, you know, gone really well from the start of the group. Of course, we've got some real tough games now coming up. So yeah, it's going to be a good year, hopefully, and success with Ireland and Fulham would be, you know, a great season.
How big a thing is that, just having a different voice around the international setup? I mean, you've gone between a couple of different clubs at this stage. Maybe for your career, that kind of accelerates it a little bit more, just having a different manager to work under. Has it been the same in the international setup?
Yeah, you know, the transition is always, you know, sometimes difficult to start or sometimes refreshing. And, you know, I feel potentially with Ireland, definitely it was probably what was needed, to be honest. Purely just all the negativity surrounding the World Cup disappointment, and then a few games after that, you know, we didn't really perform too well. And, you know, the managerial game now is so short for managers, the time frame that they're at clubs or countries. So I think potentially that's what it needed, and it's definitely had a positive effect on the team. I think you could see that, albeit, you know, the Gibraltar game away, we probably didn't get as many goals as we wanted, and the Georgia game, you know, I felt we performed really well, and again in Denmark. So I feel it's definitely been a good start to mix, you know, new start under us.
Harry, it's obviously transfer deadline day today. Are you glad that you're not in the mix for a move today? Are you happy that this all got sorted out before? These days, talking to Keith Andrews there, he was saying they can be quite stressful when something is going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. This time last year, it was probably not one of my most not nice experiences in football. It was, the unknown is horrible for a footballer, and to be at home last year, it got to about 12 o'clock, and it still wasn't decided where I was going, and then literally it was a call saying get up to Cardiff, and I had to quickly make the drive up and make the deadline day just in time. So, this year round I made the decision quite early on that I was either staying at Bournemouth or going to Fulham, and Eddie was really understanding with my situation. He knew my reasons, obviously, why I wanted to go to Fulham, and he was very supportive. If that didn't happen, then I had a real chance of playing at Bournemouth. So I didn't let myself get stressed this year. My decision was made quite early.
Yeah. So last year, were there a bunch of other clubs in for you as well as Cardiff? Was it obvious fairly early on in the day that Cardiff was going to be where you ended up, or was that a bit of a surprise?
Yeah, well, I would say it was a surprise because I didn't really find out until probably 10 o'clock that they were interested, and then 12 o'clock I was making the drive up, and I got to I didn't really fancy doing a drive from Bournemouth. It was a good 2.5, 3 hours, and I probably got probably about 40 minutes away from Cardiff, and then I got a call saying that Watford had matched the same offer as Cardiff, and it was more that, one, to be honest, the honest truth is that I give Neil Warnock my word that I was signing, and there was no way I could let him down. I didn't really fancy, letting him down and making an enemy of him. But it was more, I thought I can't just do the drive back now to Watford. I've got this far, so I have to go through with it.
It's mad, isn't it? Like it's lunacy, the whole system where a career is decided on the basis of like the time that you could get and the amount of effort that it would take to get from one place to another. I don't know why they can't just make these signatures like digitally online somehow.
I know. I think I'm not naive to know that obviously teams have maybe top targets, second targets, and every club knows things can fall through, and they obviously have plans for if that happens, and I have no doubt that potentially might have been the case with Watford. And I didn't feel that was the case with Cardiff, so I feel every player wants to feel really wanted, and Neil made me feel like I was going to be really wanted at Cardiff, and he obviously put me in straight away, and albeit a disappointing season, it was one that I really enjoyed, and I had a real good relationship with the club.
Harry, what would that sliding doors moment have materialised in? How would the Watford career have turned out? I'm sure it's not something you've thought about too much.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't, because as I say, you can't plan anything in football. You can't plan what could have happened, what might have happened. It's probably the one industry that you can't make any plans for, or really predict what will happen. I made my decision, and I say I was really happy on a personal level how the season went. I really enjoyed my time there, thoroughly enjoyed my time there, and obviously the only disappointment thing was we didn't manage to stay up. It was by 1 point in the end, and all the adversity the club faced during the season, on and off the pitch, it would have been really fitting if we did manage to stay up, but unfortunately we didn't.
The very lazy analysis would be to say that Neil Warnock and Eddie Howe are at complete opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to their managerial philosophy. Is that a lazy analysis, or is that kind of fair to say?
Yes, but I don't think there's a problem with that. I've been asked this before in the past, and style of football is not one way to play. I think it's down to whatever's most effective, and Neil had a different group of players to what Eddie had at Bournemouth, and he worked out that he felt the way he wanted to set up and play was going to be the most effective for that team. So I really embraced that part of it. I really embraced the challenge of, as I say, learning a new way of playing. People say it's not pretty or whatever they say, and I can see why they say that, but as I say, there was games where it was really effective and it worked. So I would never want to judge either or for their philosophy. It's what they deem probably most effective at that time.
Yeah, fair enough. Harry, you've got Blackburn at home this weekend and Saturday at 3 o'clock. When do you know what the team for that's going to be? Are you getting close to making your full competitive debut yet for Fulham?
Yeah, I don't know how it works here, to be honest. Obviously, at Cardiff and Bournemouth, the managers named the team before the game. I'm not sure whether that's something Scott does. But we're off today, and obviously going tomorrow. I'm sure he'll have a set-up in the team. And, you know, obviously I'm desperate to play, of course. But the bigger picture is, I always say, definitely when there's a real purpose within a squad, like staying up last year and like making sure we get promoted this year, the most important thing is the team. And, you know, making sure you're a good teammate to everyone, playing or not playing, because the end goal is definitely more important than the individual goal. So whatever part he wants me to play this year, I'll definitely be playing it to my fullest.
Well, listen, enjoy your day off. Best of luck with the rest of the season, and thanks a million for taking the call today.
No problem. Cheers, guys.
It's Harry Arter there of Fulham and Ireland talking to us on deadline day here. It's a 17-hour special from OTB Sports Radio. We're going all the way until midnight tonight. We've been on air from 7 a.m. It is 9:49 now. We've been on air from 7 a.m. Owen's a little bit tired. I wanted to just point out that earlier on you were talking about the new signing, the new right-back competition for Seamus Coleman coming from Monaghan. I was like,
I said
Monaghan and Monaco, never until this point compared ever in life.
Sidibe is a good Carrick McCross name by all accounts, so Coleman under pressure from a Monaghan man for sure.
We're going to be back with Tom Malone right after these.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
With over 15,000 coolers available to hire or buy, HSS Hire has a cooling solution for every workplace. Research shows staff are happier when their surroundings are comfortable. And with HSS Hire's range of fans, air conditioners and coolers, you can transform hot and stuffy into cool and calm. Drop into your local HSS. We've branches nationwide in Dublin, Waterford, Cork, Limerick and Galway, and get up to 50% off your first hire. HSS Hire, you're better equipped.
Let's face it, the Irish summer has serious commitment issues. It's always late, disappears for weeks at a time, and consistently breaks its promises. But not us. At Electric Ireland, we're committed to giving you an 8.5% saving on your gas and electricity year after year after year after year. Visit electricireland.ie/join for the kind of commitment you deserve.
Estimated annual bill €1,736. Average consumption, urban 24-hour, discounted unit rate, standing charge, PSO levy and carbon tax. Residential, dual fuel, direct debit and online billing. Terms and conditions apply. See electricireland.ie/EAB. Rates at 1st of April 2019, subject to change.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100. That's right. New Irish accounts can enjoy a risk-free first bet up to €100. So if your first bet loses, we'll refund your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In store, online, and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Yeah, you're very welcome back to OTB AM this morning. We're here all the way until 10 o'clock, and then the next show and the show after that 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 are coming your way, because we're on air all the way until midnight tonight for our Transfer Deadline Day special. Brian Kerr and John O'Shea are going to join John Duggan and Phil Egan. After that, it's Louise Quinn and Stephen Kelly alongside Adrian Barry and Stephen Doyle. Gary Breen and John Waters are going to join Johnny Ward and Dan McDonald. John Giles is back with Nathan Murphy and Joe Malloy in studio from 4 o'clock. And then, obviously, the actual radio show will happen at 7, and then stuff coming your way after that too. In the meantime, Tom Malone, good morning to you.
Hi, Ger.
How are you?
Good, yeah. It's obviously transfer deadline day in the Premier League, so the window will slam shut, as I'm contractually obliged to say, at 5 o'clock. Yeah, looking forward to that.
Should the Premier League get an actual window that they slam shut, just for ceremony? Like, if ESPN were doing this and it was the draft, there would be like a ceremonial window. Then they would break on the 1st of January.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Wouldn't it be class?
Yeah, I'm all for that.
I mean, cheese up this cheesiness to the point of...
we know it's ridiculous. That's the point.
Yeah.
So let's not deny that in any way,
maybe
shape, or
we
form.
should just get our own window that we slam shut.
It's mad that
you get a sponsored Fairco or whoever
sponsored windows that they don't want to show break.
In this actual
unbreakable.
In this actual decade, a fax machine actually let down a transfer.
I know.
It is still crazy to think that actually happened.
Is this the only day of the year where a fax machine is potentially relevant?
Could still happen, couldn't it?
I don't know. Do they?
But like, Harry Arter's like, oh, I'm not driving back. I'm in Cardiff. I'm not going to Watford. I mean,
like an actual significant fork in the road in your career is just decided on the fact that I can't make it back there.
I missed that turn off on whatever motorway. It's like
that happened to me going to Galway last week out the races. Yeah, I missed the turn, ended up in Longford. My God, yeah,
it's easy enough to miss.
It's easy enough to miss the turn. It was bucking around as well. Anyway, stuck in Longford.
Yeah, you should try having Eoin as your co-pilot.
Anyway, let's move on to the actual moves that have been made. Manchester United have agreed a deal worth up to €80 million with Inter Milan to see Romelu Lukaku join the Italian club. Kieran Tierney has left Celtic for Arsenal in a €27 million deal. The Gunners also in line to snap up Chelsea's David Luiz, while Spurs are busy. They're finalising deals for Giovanni Lo Celso from Real Betis and also Fulham's Ryan Sessegnon. Well, this morning it's kind of broken that they are believed, like the BBC are saying it, so it's much more relevant than some standard Twitter feed. But Spurs believed to be close to reaching a deal with Juventus for Paulo Dybala, which would be pretty significant day's business for Spurs. You can see what their last signing was Lucas Moura. So, so pretty busy to do all that in one day. Manchester City, obviously, they've snapped up João Cancelo from Juventus, with Danilo going the opposite direction. Republic of Ireland international James McCarthy has joined Crystal Palace from Everton. So that fee just seems to go up every hour, but around about the €9 million mark. And then Seamus Coleman could be under pressure for his position at Everton with the arrival of Djibril Sidibe there from Monaco. In the Europa League last night, Dundalk have left themselves with plenty of work to do there to qualify for the group stage of the Europa League. They lost 1-0 to Slovan Bratislava in the first leg of that third round qualifying tie in Slovakia last night. David Holman with the goal 5 minutes from time. The return leg in Tallinn next Tuesday. Boss Vinnie Perth spoke to Dundalk TV after the game, but he feels the tie is still alive.
There's big moments coming for this group, it really is, and I think you're starting to see us a bit more like ourselves over the last week or so. Big challenge for us. We've got to refocus now to domestically on Saturday, but we need a big night next week in Tallinn.
And in the third qualifying round for the Champions League, Celtic drew 1-1 with Romanian side Cluj. James Forrest there with the crucial away goal for the Hoops. In golf, Shane Lowry plays his first tournament as the Open champion today. He tees it up in the Northern Trust event on the PGA Tour. That's in New Jersey, a field which also includes the likes of Rory McIlroy, Brooks Koepka and Tiger Woods. The Offaly man says their life is now a little bit different.
I'm definitely more recognised now, and even coming over here to events. But if anything, when you are like that, it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. Well, that's the way I feel anyway. And they're not calling me Beef, or they're not calling me JB Holmes out there today. So that's a plus. So.
Yeah, he's not just a standard big guy with a beard now.
To the victors, the spoils.
Not recognised by Stone Cold Steve Austin, though.
No? I missed this.
Well, the video that was doing the rounds yesterday of Stone Cold walking into ESPN offices, and everybody's like, "Oh, can I get a picture with you, Steve, after you're done?" So he walks into the door, and then Shane Lowry's just walking by, looking at him walking into the door, which suggests to me that if he had known who he was, he would have spotted him, and we would have had an actual cute pic between Shane Lowry and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Was Stone Cold recognised by Shane Lowry? Is he a wrestler?
Oh yeah, well Shane Lowry was like looking. Well, you don't need to be a wrestling fan to know Stone Cold Steve Austin.
But like, think of the claret jug and the amount of beer that's been in it in the last couple of weeks, and then you Stone Cold Steve Austin, would he just have cracked open a can there and then as well, and they could have had
that would have been fantastic
magic moment. Probably missed opportunity for some beer sponsor as well. On to the rugby, of course. Ireland's first warm-up game against Italy at the weekend. That game kicks off at the Aviva Stadium on Saturday. That team will be announced today at some stage. The squad, of course, will be further trimmed to 38 after that game on Saturday afternoon. And yesterday, after a clean sweep for the Irish riders in the international class at the RDS, today is day 2 of the Dublin Horse Show, where they celebrate 100 years of female riders in the saddle competing as well. It's a speed derby and the Stable Lab Stakes, the 2 feature events there in the main arena. Also in horse racing, the Joseph O'Brien trained Melbourne Cup winner Rekindling has been retired. His win at Flemington made O'Brien the youngest ever Melbourne Cup winning trainer. Of course, he's only run one since, and he's since been retired. He has been retired to stud and will stand in Europe, so huge moment there. And there's horse racing action today on the track from Leopardstown and Sligo from 5:15 and 5:35.
Will Rekindling be much sought after?
I would doubt it, to be perfectly honest. He's by High Chaparral.
So maybe.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, you would imagine he would end up becoming a jump sire in time.
Okay. Tom, good stuff. Thanks very much for that. That's it from OTB AM this morning. A very special extended 3-hour show for you, but you have to stay tuned to us on OTB Sports Radio because we are live all day long here on OTB Sports Radio from Off the Ball. Up next, we're going to have the great John O'Shea on the line ahead of the new season. Obviously, he's making his coaching debut properly as well. After 11 o'clock, Brian Kerr is going to be in studio. Offtheball.com, the Go Loud app, and youtube.com/offtheball are the best places to watch us. John Duggan and Phil Egan are going to be in studio here on our 17-hour Off the Ball Deadline Day special. That's why the hashtag is OTB17. We're going to leave you with this. Kevin Kilbane absolutely destroying Manchester United midfielder Fred.
And you've got Matic, you've got Fred.
Fred, bloody hell, Joe. Fred. Fred can't kick a ball. Can't kick a ball, Joe.
He can kick a ball.
Joe, he can't kick a ball properly. I'm telling you now, he can't. He can't. Okay. And he's one of those players where he gets about 5 yards away from you and he smashes it at you. And he's bouncing at you and you're like, lads can't control it.
He just needs to get his pace. It's like you would have put on the green. Sometimes you just overdo it the closer you get.
Yeah, he's quick, he can get round, he's extremely mobile, but he certainly doesn't...
No, he's not a footballer.
No, he doesn't look to me like he's a...
Will McTominay nail down a place? Matic, does he still have legs? So that's not good, is it?
Matic had a poor season, didn't he? He had a poor season. He did.
Am I forgetting somebody obvious here?
Well, Herrera's gone, hasn't he? You've got Mata that can play in one of the 3 midfield roles, but again, legs. Yeah. That's the thing. That'd be a massive concern when you'd have it for United. United needed a holding midfield. They needed another midfield if Pogba was to go. Trying to get that Dybala deal over the line in with the Lukaku deal.
That was kind of opportunism.
Exactly. Is it what they need as well? He's not going to make a massive difference to United getting that Dybala deal over the line.
OTB Sports Radio.